got your attention now, don't I?
This is the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast.
All right, here we are again. Another episode. I've got Kevin Reeves, PJ, former Ranger, myself, Tyr Symank, Green Beret, and contractor and slacker extraordinaire, Baker Leavitt, a civilian.
Absolutely.
And our guest today is Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, a very recent awardee of the Medal of Honor.
That is correct.
That is correct. Thank you, Earl. Very matter of fact.
No, pleasure.
Welcome to the show, Earl. You and I go back a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that now? 5? 6?
Maybe. I don't know.
Something like
I
that.
just refer to everything now as a couple years because
it gets weird.
I don't know anymore.
No, some of my friends I've known a couple of years, and I find out it's like 20, and that's just awkward to talk about.
It kind of sneaks up on you. Yeah, and then you waste a lot of time trying to figure out what year was what.
Yeah.
That's really only important when you're putting your VA packet in for disability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can default back to Earl. Like, how many Earls do you actually know on this planet?
1.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
That's an abnormal amount of Earls.
Yes, it is. It's hyper Earlism is what.
How many Earls do you know?
I know one.
Well,
I just met him.
Earl. I just
Yeah,
met
good
him
to meet
too.
you.
I know 2, me being one of them. So,
Well, my first name is Baker. And I've met 2 Bakers in my lifetime. But what's interesting is I have never in my life met someone with the same last name as me.
Interesting.
Which is interesting because your father was a Green Beret.
He was. He went through the second Q course ever.
And you have siblings that are Green Berets.
I have one.
One sibling that's Green Beret. But you didn't know that for a long time.
A tremendous time. Yeah. So my brother Mitchell was a Force Recon Marine. He had just coming back from deployment to Monrovia, Liberia, and I'm going to pick him up at Lejeune. And I get a phone call. It's like, hey, is this Baker Leavitt? I was like, this is speaking. And she's like, yeah, I'm your brother's wife. And I was like, that sly dog. Like, what was, because he went from Iraq straight to Africa. And I was like, wait, I'm like, I mean, 1,000 questions. Like, what does she look like? Mm-hmm. Did you meet her in Africa or did you meet her in Iraq? And like, my brother's married. Holy shit, that's crazy. And I was like, well, excuse me, come again? She's like, yeah, your brother Will. I was like, oh, no. My brother's name is Mitchell. She's like, no, your brother Will. And I was like, so who's Will? And then I found out that I had a half Vietnamese brother named Will Leavitt. Oh. And then I found out I have a half Vietnamese brother named Pat. And then a few years later, I found out that I had a brother named Frank, so my dad grew up in New York City and got in lots of trouble, and they'd get arrested. And then I think like in Green Beret started, 57? 54? 50. So we'll say 1952, the judge was like, you have 2 choices. Army, jail. Dad chose Army. Goes through basic training, then went through the second Q course ever and like immediately deployed over there. But while he was in the Q course, he got a young lady pregnant.
Like you do. That's a Fort Bragg thing.
Yeah. And the more and that guy was adopted by the team, 5th Group Sergeant Major, whatever it's called. And his name was Frank. And so I got that as a Facebook message probably 8-9 years ago. My brother got it as well. And my brother, Mitchell, was a Force Recon Marine. And like he, there's all the bias, and he thinks that Green Berets are fat guys that overplan everything. And they wear Vibram 5-finger shoes and all that stuff. And he was like, typical effing Green Beret, got kids all over the world. And I was like, hold on. Like, wait, like, don't be like, what's like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, and then what's another interesting thing was my dad got his CIB in Laos in 1960, and then he did 2 tours with 5th Group, one with MACV and then one with SOG.
Yeah. So and then here you are.
And here I am.
Sitting with 2 Green Berets and a PJ.
And I went to Air Force boarding school.
Yeah.
I was standing in formation before all of you. So that's my first time in formation was in 1991 in Melbourne, Florida.
I want to let you know though, I was one hell of a Cub Scout. Like I was Order of the Arrow and Weeblos, the whole bit. Yeah. But there was a Medal of Honor for Cub Scouts. I would have had it.
Yeah, but why didn't you get Eagle Scout?
That's Boy Scouts.
Yeah, but the thing with the Eagle Scout, the reason it's so valuable is it shows your ability to start a very difficult task at an early age and complete it.
Well, I'll tell you, my dad was very involved in my primary school years and not so much in my Boy Scout years.
But your father was also a priest or preacher at a deaf church.
Different dad.
Oh, so you have multiple fathers.
Yes, my birth father, the male stripper / general contractor.
Oh,
was also involved in the Boy Scouts. My stepdad was the pastor of the Deaf Church.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can sing.
There's
the
a lot
songs.
to unpack here. There's a lot to unpack. Yeah.
Let's focus on
But that's a whole other show.
I have a very boring backstory until the military.
We're trying to draw the
comparatively
listeners
speaking.
in right now. We're trying to get them in early.
Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee.
They're in.
I know some of your backstory, but I know everybody else doesn't. So where do you hail from, sir?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Merritt, Oklahoma. There's
And you
plains.
claim-
There's waving wheat. It's all there.
But you claim,
Yeah. When people ask me, I say Texas.
right?
There
you go.
That's where I joined out of.
Yeah.
And so it's my driver's license. It's where I pay taxes.
Yeah.
So how old were you enlisted?
So I joined the National Guard when I turned 18 while I was still in high school.
Were you a split train?
I was supposed to be, but I kept.
I don't speak SF. What's the split?
What does that even mean?
That's actually a National Guard
You
thing.
can join the National Guard,
Yeah.
like I did, and I joined it at the beginning of the school year, my junior year. And then that summer, I would go to basic training, and I would come back, finish my senior year of high school, and then immediately following that, I would go to AIT and get an MOS.
Gotcha.
I didn't attend basic training because I kept getting in fights, and I had broken bones, and I couldn't ever ship to boot camp, which all my friends in high school joined with me, so they all had to go to basic training, and then I stayed back, partying the whole summer. So
Sounds great.
There's some grudges made.
Not tolerating.
Look at
You
you
talked
now.
us into this.
Yeah. Look at you now.
Did you get meritorious promotion? Like, did you get your mosquito
I did.
wing
So I
for-
got all my friends to join the National Guard. I got promoted to E3. So they all came back from basic training as E1s and E2s. And then I was put in charge of them as a senior soldier. And I'd never been to basic training.
That is great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
that's the government.
Yes.
That's
So
government,
you basically got a bonus or commission by getting people to enlist.
Yeah. So I forget exactly what you got, but for however many people you could get to sign up, they would promote you.
Yeah.
Up until I think it stopped at E3.
Yeah.
But I
They
think I
used
got
to call it back in the day, and even the drill sergeants called it this. They used to call it the "fuck your buddy" program.
Why didn't I know about
That's
this?
fascinating.
Yeah.
and the recruiter, he might lie to you. Your friend always going to tell you the truth. And I was like, I found this great deal. We go off-roading all weekend in Humvees. They're going to give us a couple $100. It's going to be great.
Sounds awesome.
And most of that's not true.
How many years ago was that?
It was in 1998. So
Are you still friends with those guys?
I still keep in contact with some of them casually.
Yeah.
Most of them did a substantial amount of time in the National Guard, and one of them is still kicking around out there. So,
So
they got over it.
So you started winning like hearts and minds and nation
Yeah.
building like before you even went off to basic, right?
Yeah, and I was,
You were a Green Beret. He
didn't even know
You were
it.
doing
Yeah.
the mission before you.
Yeah,
we want this guy. He signed up 75 people.
no, and I continue the trend. I spent a lot of time because I was a Marine. After that, I went and served in the infantry, and then
What was your first MOS? What did you enlist
so
as?
my very first MOS, because I never got an MOS in the National Guard.
No kidding.
I did 2 or 3 years there and never successfully.
Never was fully qualified.
I got a driver's license, but that was they kind of had to give me that so I could do something for them. But my very first MOS was an 0351, which is a infantry MOS. And it's an anti-armor assaultman.
That's a Marine Corps MOS, right?
Yep.
What did you enlist as initially?
So they have a program. So if you were a Marine, they will instantly just make you an 11 Bravo so that you qualify to attend selection. And
I mean in the Guard.
And I never
You
got
didn't
it.
even have like a contract for.
I had a
MOS.
contract I was supposed to be a 13 mic MLRS crewman, but I never successfully completed any of the training.
Right.
What is your-
because you weren't capable, or you just never?
No,
never-
I every time it came up that I was, it's summer, it's spring. That's when all the high school parties happen.
That's true.
And
you had priorities.
and I would be at those.
Right.
And I was a slightly built fellow, and I got a boxer's fracture, and I refused to let it heal, and I broke it several times before I learned not to hit people with my right hand.
Mm.
And
it all makes sense now.
Yep. And
What does your DD-214 reflect for that time period where you were a question
He
mark?
doesn't have one yet.
no, they gave me one. They gave me a DD-214. I have 6 DD-214s.
Actually, so do I.
Yeah. Which every time I go to the S1 to get my record scrubbed, they get a cup of coffee and start rubbing their head.
Yeah.
Because it's a mess.
For those listening that don't know what a DD-214 is, that is basically your military service.
That's your discharge paperwork.
Your discharge paperwork.
Well, no, it lives. It follows you. You change
but it basically tells what you did and your
Right.
like your biography. It's your biological passport for your time in the
The
military.
anomaly of having 6, like Earl does, like I do, is that most people that enlist have 1. It's they get 1 when they get out.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm not,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah. 6 and 6. Okay.
Well, they went paperless, and then it became a real pain in the ass. Because you used to take the I Love Me binder and just go put it in the thing.
Yeah.
And then it went.
But I don't know what it says. I know it reflects the amount of drills I attended. I have great drill attendants because I was always available.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in, and then how did you, so then what, you were in the
So
Marines?
it's because it's the National Guard. If you elect to go active duty, that basically wipes out your National Guard contract, and then the active side will pick it up, and you go forth and do that. So I kept getting in trouble, and everybody decided it'd be a really good idea if I maybe didn't live in Oklahoma for a little while. And the Marine Corps
Was that mostly the state of Oklahoma?
it was mostly the state of
everybody.
Oklahoma. Was real excited about keeping me busier somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the DA and the Marine Corps recruiter had a chat, and then
As in district attorney?
Mhm.
Okay. This is awesome.
This is so awesome.
I'm so excited right now.
You didn't
I
tell
really
her
am.
behavior either.
so yeah, I got exiled from the state of Oklahoma for a year, and I got all my charges dropped in lieu of military service. And
It's like my father.
yeah,
There you go. Dad,
So
is that you, Dad?
recruiter came and he's like, "Here, sign this contract." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "It's the only one you're getting, so sign it." And and that's how I joined the infantry.
Where'd you go for the year?
I went to
Harris
I went to Marine Corps Recruit Depot,
Okay.
San Diego,
Gotcha.
and I elected not to take leave at the end of it because I couldn't go back to Oklahoma.
Use or lose.
And
This guy's genius. No, he's just not allowed.
yeah, dedicated.
Right.
And then I went to the School of Infantry, which is in Camp Pendleton, and was just making sure to cover all my bases. I elected to serve overseas. There's a little box you can tick for that, and the only overseas duty station they had for infantry, unbeknownst to me, was Hawaii. And I was stationed in Hawaii for the remainder of my contract.
That sounds horrible.
That's on the windward side, right?
People
Like
were questioning what kind of punishment it actually was.
Right, right.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah, we're going
a-
to get his ass.
awesome
Yeah.
outcome.
Because I-
Hawaii.
I had, I got in trouble with all my friends, and they got different levels of punishment, community service, and the like. And I just left and was living in Hawaii, calling them from the beach. So.
And so then you got out of the Marine Corps?
I finished my enlistment, and
What year
then
was
this would have been 2004.
Okay.
And then I volunteered for a program called RMAT, where you could attempt to become a Force Recon Marine. And I think it was 18 months or 2 years of orders that you could volunteer for. And you got a train up, and then you would try to become a Force Recon Marine. And then whatever time was left, you could just go to schools. And then so it's made for guys that were just coming off the street and maybe didn't have any experience in the military. So they would go to boot camp, School of Infantry, get trained up to be physically able to pass, and then make their attempt.
Sounds like the 18X program.
It's very similar to the 18 X-ray program. But me coming from the infantry, I had a no break in service. Did my we call it RIP, Recon Indoctrination Program.
You stole that from us.
And it's a R, and it ends eventually. Maybe P. But I was physically able and got brushed up on a few skills, and then went to ARS, which is gone now, but and then became a Force Recon Marine.
ARS is advanced?
Amphibious Reconnaissance.
Amphibious, okay. Got it.
Which my brother, when we had the last adaptive shoot, Kelby Price was there, and he's like, you're Baker? I said, yeah. He goes, you're Mitchell's brother. And I went, yeah. He goes, your brother put me through ARS and REP. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And there was some ranger guy that my brother made quit. And it's this like really famous story. He's like, yeah, he found this dead caudalfish on the beach in Okinawa and made him carry it around for an entire day. And the guy quit because of it.
Why?
He carried a dead fish with him all day.
I carried a turtle with me for 3 days in ranger school. I thought it was great. I had a friend all the time.
Carrying a dead stinky fish.
I carried a rock, but I didn't know it. Yep. The old rock.
So you're a Force Recon Marine?
Yep.
How long were you a Force Recon Marine?
Until 2008. So in 2008, I got a class from a more senior fellow, and he kind of explained to me mission and authorities, and all the things I thought I was going to get to do as a Marine weren't necessarily true. MARSOC had just stood up, and he's like, if you're going to do special operations, you're in the wrong place. Like the Marine Corps is the most elite conventional fighting force on the planet, and that's what they love and do. And if you want to do other things, you should go over here. And so I called some around, and they put me in touch with a special operations recruiter, and they recommended me to apply get home to a state, get my DD-214, go see a recruiter, and get an 18 X-ray contract. Which is what I did. I had a 12-hour break in service.
You had the EAS from the Marine Corps where you were forced.
Yep.
12 hours.
I took terminal leave, and if you have terminal leave, you're able to begin in processing the Army. So I went and saw the recruiter, and he did up a contract for me. And as soon as my terminal leave was over, I came in and enlisted in the Army as an 18 X-ray.
What pay grade did they bring you in at in the Army?
I left the Marine Corps as a E5 promotable, and I didn't really think it that far ahead. But man, I wish I had pinned. I got to keep E5, but it zeroed out my time and grade. So it set me back a few years.
Yeah,
but it worked out.
Yeah,
but yeah, if I had, in hindsight, I wish I'd extended for like 3 months and then pinned and came across. But
yeah. So you had to go through selection? What's it? That's
SFAs.
Yeah. So did you have to do that?
Yeah, I joined, and then I went with all the fresh meat down to Fort Benning, and we got issued uniforms. And at the end of the hall, they all went left to attend boot camp, and I made a right and got on a bus and went to selection.
Did you have to do SOP-C?
I did. I did SOP-C,
which is Special Operations Preparatory Course, right?
That's like the 21-day.
No,
no.
It's a hold, and then it's like a training. So a lot of the selection, especially like the land nav, and then like the particularly like knots. Mm-hmm. Your average kid off the street, unless he was a super Boy Scout, is not really equipped to graduate selection. So they just try to level that playing field and give him enough basic skills that he gets a fair shot at passing selection.
A lot of intestinal fortitude and resiliency that's looked at in the SF selection process. But if you can't tie
fancy knots,
just 3 basic knots,
you're about to have a hard time.
Hold or figure out what an azimuth is in the dark, you have 0 chance of passing selection.
What knots are they?
Bowline, square knot, and probably a basic lashing. I think.
The trucker's hitch. That was a big one that came up.
Has anyone had problems with the square knot?
You'd be surprised.
I can tie that.
Yeah.
Right over left, left over right.
I can teach you in French. Gauche to droite, droite to gauche. Yeah. But
you can tie it. You can tie it right now. You can't tie it in the middle of the night while I'm pouring water on you, yelling at you.
I got to do it underwater. I mean,
yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So land nav super important.
Land nav will get you. Yeah.
My favorite land nav story of all time is when Evan Hafer tells that story. It was like during Q course
and the wetsuit story.
And so he's sitting there, and it's like winter, raining, sleeting, miserable conditions, the worst possible. And one of the instructors is standing there in like, I guess, BDUs or whatever, and that's it.
Yep.
And Evan's like, that is the hardest son of a bitch I have ever seen in my entire life.
Inspiring.
I don't know how he did it. And it inspired him. And he runs into him in Iraq a few years later, and he's like, man, I just want to tell you, man, that was amazing. He's like, oh no, I had a 3 mil wetsuit on underneath that. Evan had no clue. And he's like, oh shit.
We used to do it all the time. We'd buy, this is back in probably like 2001 or 2. We'd go down to the mountain shop, in Tacoma or wherever that was, and you'd buy the Arc'teryx soft shell, and you'd roll the collar in and keep it kind of flat and wear it underneath your BDU top. So you looked harder than you were because you're actually pretty toasty. Yeah. It's a great technique.
I avoid cold weather.
No, I
at all times.
Yeah.
So how was
fan.
the selection thing for you?
It was. I knew that I was going to get selected. I was.
That's a bold statement.
I knew I physically I was toward the top of the class for almost every event, and I didn't know how many people they were going to select. I knew they had to select at least 10, so I never let more than 10 people pass me at any event. I knew that, especially being a Force Recon Marine, the land nav I wasn't going to fail land nav.
Yeah.
Were you a Force Recon in Okinawa?
No.
Okay.
Hawaii.
All right.
But yeah, I did do the land nav course out in Okinawa, which you know that one you have to have rappel ropes to get the points.
Yeah,
so
my brother was
like,
a Force Recon Marine, and Mitchell tells me, he's like, I think the topo maps in Okinawa don't start until 80 feet.
Right.
So I don't really know what that means, but it sounds hard.
It's ridiculous. I've walked onto points out there, and I'm like, I'm within 10 meters of this damn point. Where is it? And then you look over a cliff, and 60, 70 feet down, you can see the marker, and then you get your rope out and climb down there. So I knew they weren't going to have these young 18 X-ray kids going after points like that, and so I knew that I was going to get selected. It still was not the best experience. Even being like physically toward the top of the class, I was beat down every night. And I was very excited when it was over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was hard.
It was hard. I've done harder things as single events, but I think that's the hardest thing I've ever done, like for an extended period of time.
What was the hardest part for you? Like looking back now, not in the moment, not looking back, but like in that moment, what was the most challenging part for you?
The most challenging part, because selection starts, it's just you. And then as you go through it, they build the teams. And so team week, you kind of lose the ability to directly impact your own fate. Mm-hmm. So you can influence it, you can help the team, and the guys get to exchange being in charge.
You essentially have the power to not quit.
Yep.
At that point.
And that was, they have an event called Down Pilot, and I think my entire team quit. I had 2 teams, but my entire team quit on the Down Pilot. And this thing, you're carrying this big frame, and it weighs like 800 pounds. And I think we started off with 17 guys, and we finished with like 5 or 6. And I was like looking around. If one more guy quits, I don't know what we're going to do, because
you need a minimum number to carry the
the thing.
Yeah.
But we got through that, and they blew us apart, and we all went to different teams. But that was the hardest thing for me. Is if you get somebody that's not confident and he's come up with a crappy plan, you're a slave to that. So.
Can that impact you?
Yeah, I mean, so it's selection's not fair. So if you get on a bad team and you have any kind of weaknesses, whether it be physical or maybe you have an injury and you get a bad team, I mean, your chances of not making it have just gone up. And
so there's guys that are like absolutely physically capable and would be great Green Berets, but sometimes they don't make it because
you're in the best shape of your life. If you don't have the mental game in there, you're not going to make it.
Or, somebody drops something on you and breaks your leg. Yeah. It's hard to finish with one leg.
Well, and I think the team that is suffering or struggling or whatnot gets a little more scrutiny, and therefore it makes the statistical probability of failing go up if you're on that team, even if you are a strong.
Yeah, because everybody's what's with these guys? Because something's wrong, and they want to figure out what is wrong, and it's usually a person somewhere that they don't want to continue.
And additionally, Baker, there's zero feedback. Like you see videos of buds or anything where they're just yelling at people with a megaphone. You don't have that selection, and it drives people nuts because they don't know how they're doing.
Yeah, my first experience where I was like, I'm in a different league. As they have a big giant monkey bars, and I was like, monkey bars are easy. But then I get there, we're not using our hands. We're walking across the top, and this guy walks up, and he slips off, and he lands on his head, and obviously broke his clavicle because his arm is twisted up in an unnatural angle, and he's screaming, and the instructor walks over, and he's like, candidate, I need to know, would you like to reattempt the obstacle, or would you like to quit? And the kid's like, I want to quit.
Did you ever think about quitting?
No, I never thought about quitting.
No one has ever said yes.
I thought about quitting.
Really?
Yes.
Actually,
I know the exact moment when that was.
Luke Pilgrim tells the story. He thought about quitting. He wrote an article about it. And he somehow was able to go sit in a portalet and just cried himself senseless. And then after he cried on the portalet, he was better and he was good to go. When did you think about quitting?
Hails of Pain.
What is that?
It's a team week event where you are resupplying an indigenous force with water from a creek at the bottom of the hill to an agent at the top of the hill. And this is in the Sand Hills in North Carolina, by the way. So walking up a hill with under load is hard, but then you're doing this 4 times with a ruck in sand, and your guy at the top of the hill, like if you slosh too much water,
doesn't count.
It doesn't count. It doesn't count. So it ends up being a problem solving and team leadership.
That's maddening.
Well,
yeah, it was. Well, so each team member gets issued 2 buckets and a lashing. I did not come from a tactical background. I knew how to tie knots because I had to tie bridles. I rode horses for the Army before I went to selection. So I'm going to use everything. Oh, I've got this lashing. Clearly, I'm supposed to use it. So I tied a water knot, which I learned at selection, onto both pails. And then I hung it around my neck like I was a Dutch girl. And I tried to walk up the hill with 2 full buckets of water hanging off my neck and a 45-pound rucksack on my back.
Are we talking 5-gallon buckets?
What are they like? I think they're like 2.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not comfortable.
They're not comfortable. It's enough that you know it's there.
And especially if they're tied around a rope around your neck.
Yeah, so that was dumb. And I owe my friend Justin, who is still serving in a USASOC unit, I owe him a debt right there because he was coming up on my right. And I said, actually, you may have worked with him in 275 back in the day.
Maybe.
But I said, I don't think I can make him. And he's like, fuck you. That's what he said. He said, you can make it. You made it this far. You can keep going. So I didn't quit. But I also adjusted like, oh, I don't have to wear this like a yoke on my neck. I can use my hands like a person with opposable thumbs. And
that's what separates us as these bad boys.
That's most of it. Yeah. The amazing thing about that particular event for me was that we had a guy that finished that vent and then VW'd, voluntary withdrawal, quit. He quit after the event was over. He decided it wasn't for him, but he wasn't going to let the team down because he knew we'd have more work. And that to me spoke, I'm like, bro, you are the guy we need in this regiment.
I always want to talk to those guys that like quit at a strange, nobody quits right before the event starts.
Right.
They like quit afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, I barely got through that. I'm not going to make the next
Todd
one.
Ehrlich, the guy that started Killcliff, he had a guy in Buds quit like the Thursday night of Hell Week.
Yeah.
Like apparently no one quits Buds after Wednesday. Like it's never happened. This dude was like the night before, he's like, this isn't for me. What was the hardest part for you in PJ school?
That's a great question. I didn't really know what I was getting into. So it's kind of a funny story. I've talked about this one other time. So coming from battalion, I had a buddy. Did we talk about this? Anyways, my buddy Nick, he gets out of battalion. He had a shorter contract. He gets out of battalion about a year before I did. And we had a similar experience in Afghanistan on one of the trips doing ranger things. And we saw PJs. We're like, you've got cool gear. What do you do? Trying to figure it out. So he's in the pipeline. So he's gone through INDOC. He's somewhere along the pipeline. Who knows? Free fall, sear, dive, doesn't matter. And I call him up and I said, hey, it's time for me to get out. I think I'm going to do this PJ thing. Just a calculated, this is the direction I want to go based on numerous circumstances. However, Nick says to me, I ask him, like, how do I prep for this thing? Now, keep in mind, I'm 230 pounds and I basically kick doors and like fuck people up in Afghanistan and most recently Iraq. He goes, and this is his voice, nothing, you'll be fine. I go, okay. So I show up and
he's trying to get a promotion bonus by recruiting guys.
Yeah, he's going to love it.
Can I get E3 now?
Yeah. So I show up and the first person I meet, he's actually an officer in the pipeline, but the people in the pipeline are cones. They'll train the younger guys, right? I was in the reserve in Patrick Air Force Base. So this guy, we meet in the evening and we have numerous shots of alcohol, whatever it is. He goes, cool, I'll see you at 06. We'll meet at the track and then we'll do some pool stuff. I'll show you what you can expect in INDOC. I said, awesome. He shows up in short shorts like we all do. And he's got Olympic rings tattooed on his calf.
Oh, swimmer.
And I go, fuck. He was a pentathlete, right? So he can do all the cool things. We do 2200s on the track and then we go to the pool. And No, I knew they did water things. So I would swim 300 meters and go, let's go Jack Steele. We're doing underwaters. I learned what an underwater is, and it's a hypoxic state of terrible. But I just know that everything above the surface, the air is lava and whatnot, and I just don't go up there because they tell me not to. So we get in the pool, and he explains, he's like, you're going to do minute 30s, and then I'm going to back him down to minute 15s. That's the interval from where you start to where you end, and you go subsurface and then surface, swim, back. And he goes, also, that extremely attractive lifeguard on the deck in Patrick Air Force Base, on base, that's a PJ's wife, so don't look. I'm like, fuck. And I'm thinking, I don't have a string in my Sophie shorts. So every time I push off, my ass comes out, ass out, shorts up, swim. So I'm losing immense amounts of momentum, right? I do about 15 of these things, and he goes, you're doing great. How do you feel? I go, I'm good. Sir, he was a captain, cross-training guy. So he goes, awesome, I want you to swim as far as you can and just don't come up. I go, okay. Push off, I'm swimming, ass out, shorts up. Other end, I hit my 25, push off, ass out, shorts up, do it again. I come into the 50 and I'm a little hazy. Things are narrowing a bit, but I hit the wall, push off, PJ wife, ass out, shorts up. I'm going for the 75 and the lights go out. I don't know. I land somewhere in the pool, but I wake up on the deck to the dude, the chief of the unit, Kostranik, KK. I hadn't seen him. He magically showed up, and he's smacking me across the face. And the officer, who is the Olympic ring guy, is holding me, and my eyes are closed, and I just go tingly, because that's my first, subsurface blackout. And he goes, no, prior to this, they had a bunch of people fail. And he calls me on the phone, and he goes, you're a fucking ranger, right? And I go, Roger, Chief. He goes, I need you here in 2 days, and we're going to send you to Indoc. I was like, Roger, Chief. So I show up, and this is my first event. This is the first time I've actually physically met him and, whatnot. There was a PT test, but that was prior. So I wake up to KK, and he goes, you just motivated the fuck out of me. I'm like, how far did I make it? He goes, fucking far. I go, great. I'm thinking I'm done, right? And it's terrible. It's no fun at all. Then we do over and backs, which is more underwater activities with burpees and push-ups. And then we do a bunch of buddy breathing, which is another terrible event that's not fun. That was my worst day. I never thought about quitting, but that was my worst day. Like WaterCon at Indoc, we even killed a guy. We had a guy go into, he had a, pre-existing heart condition.
You have to in every class, right? Or everybody recycles?
Yeah, you have to kill a dude.
Yeah, you have to kill a dude.
Anyway, so yeah, like we killed a dude in my class. I fuck with the young guys all the time. But anyways, I go to Indoc, and because that day was so out of the blue and I hadn't really been warmed up to it, now in Indoc, you kind of work your way to like that day. And we do a hell night, whatever. I get through the whole thing, and that being my memory of a challenging time, I call Nick back up. And I go, hey, Nick. He's like, what's up, man? I go, you could have told me to swim a fucking lap or like breathe on a snorkel or some sort of story. And he goes, no, I said you would be fine, and you're fine.
Sounds like Trevor.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Like Trevor. Yeah, you're good. So anyways, I never thought about quitting necessarily, and I thrived off of watching people quit. So as a prior enlisted dude, it was me and Chris Klaftenegger, a former corpsman, Marine Corps, Recon guy actually. We were roommates, so we were both E5s. And I would make people do ins and outs. So I put a pull-up bar in the threshold. And if they wanted to quit, they had to come talk to me first, or Chris, right? So they'd do pull-ups, and then they'd come in, and they'd kind of stand at parade rest. And we'd talk about why they wanted to quit, and I would make them wait another day. No, they don't have to. Most of the time, they would disappear before morning formation. But when they came back, the first time was encouraging. I'm like, hey, you can do it. It's not that hard. Lots of people have done it. The second time they came, I would destroy them. And I would ask them, I'm like, you should call your dad and tell him why you're quitting and really own exactly what you're doing right now and your weakness. Like, call your dad, leave this room and go call your dad, and then make your decision. And 9 times out of 10, they were gone. So we went from about 90 or like 80 and change to about 10 guys.
That's amazing that you even had that talk. Like for SFAS, it's just candidate, you failed to negotiate this obstacle.
I'm not an instructor though. I'm within the class.
Oh shit.
I'm within the class. I'm a student. Or I'm a candidate, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
I do notice something similar though. When everybody quits in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's like you go to sleep,
Yep.
And then you get up in the morning and there's holes in the formation.
Yep.
Because guys,
It just disappeared.
nobody wants to own that in the daytime, and especially like, hey, call your dad and tell him you're about to quit.
Yep.
Nobody wants to make.
It sounds like it was.
They all end up living together in. Well, back then we called it the Shack of Shame. I think that's been PC'd by now.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like, I think personally one of the worst things a person can possess within their body is pride. And it sounds to me like the guys that would quit in the night, it was a pride thing.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't want people to see them quit, but they were like, oh man, I'm fine, man. You know, I got fucked. Yeah.
Source though, like the guys that quit, like, oh man, you know, the first one or two that happens, you're like, oh, sorry to see you go, man. If you saw them packing up their stuff, after a week, you're just blunt with them. Hey man, can I have your socks and chow?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how they're doing it now. If people didn't quit, I don't know that selection could operate, because they were the ones that were, they thought they were going home. They're not.
They don't go home.
They're going to the Shack of Shame, and then they organize the events. They're setting up water points.
They end up working.
Oh, that's horrible.
All the time.
So
That's cruel.
It'd be interesting to see what happened if nobody ever quit.
Hey, man,
selection would grind
if
to a
you
halt.
quit, you don't get to leave. You're still here, and you get to watch us make it.
You get to watch everybody else make
yeah.
it.
PJ land, they disappear. The most gratifying quitting was in the pool, because you're underwater and you'll see people or watch people or see them above you popping on underwaters.
Yeah.
And you watch it. They pop once. Now that gateway to failure is open and it starts flooding. And then they pop,
contagious.
Maybe pop once on one underwater. The next one is like 1, then it's 2, then it's 3, then that's it. They're done.
Quitting is contagious.
Oh my God.
Are there guys in your class, like in your different classes, that you're like, this guy's a shitbag, I want him out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's people that you want to quit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So team week, everything in the Special Forces qualification pipeline has peer evals. So we had 3 guys that made it all the way
I think
through.
it's a key event to anything.
Yeah.
If you're selfish and you are really protecting yourself to the detriment of the team, you have just elected to leave against your will, because you'll get your peer evals and they'll call you out for it. All your people that are watching you when the instructors aren't, and you'll be herded to the door.
And everybody is peer eval.
Do you become more honest as the peer evals go along? Like your first peer eval, like, oh, he's not so bad, and then you're like, this guy's horrible.
No, there's enough stress.
Yeah.
That I've never like covered a guy for like, you know what, he's terrible and he doesn't belong here, but sure is nice. If you're not,
you're kind of stripped to the bone at that point.
Chris Irwin, he's a SEAL. He would get guys and he'd be like, hey man, let's get out of here. They'd be like, all right man, let's go. And they'd start running towards the bell and they'd get there first and ring it, and he'd turn around and run back to the class.
I love that.
There's none of that.
8 guys. 8 guys he did. He said 8 confirmed kills. He said that's what he called them.
My team, we talked a guy into quitting, but he needed to quit. Like, he was fucking the entire team. Our first team event took 2 hours longer than it was supposed to, because in any team event, you're only as good as your weakest link, right?
Right.
And going into any kind of team sport, we go that. And the guy that was in charge of that particular event, he was going in it with a team attitude instead of a selection attitude. So this guy was failing the event. So he put him up front to pace the rest of the team. And it ended up screwing everybody else. Once he got it through to his head that, and I think I mentioned this earlier, when the cadre said, this is the only feedback he gave that entire time, other than just writing things down in his notepad, ominously, was selection is an individual event. That's all he said.
Yeah.
Yep. And the team leader for that was like, Roger Sarnt. And so he kicked him in the back. And once he couldn't keep up, he got axed. But
are there guys that are like physically capable, but just not right in the head?
Most of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they won't quit, but like it's just, they're just horrible teammates.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, stress. Like, so there are things where your night gets longer and harder, or the event's just a train wreck because, certain people just don't operate operate under stress well. Mm-hmm. And you could be, very fit and very intelligent, and maybe you just don't deal with stress. And then so you miss things that are important for everybody involved.
It's a great equalizer.
Yeah. And I've been really surprised at how stress will just degrade a person's ability to think or act.
What was your best skill in the Q course? Like, what were you, or selection, or before you got into like the language stuff?
I guess my best skill having come from the infantry and being a Force Recon Marine, I was the guy, especially in SUT, if you wanted to get a map check, like I knew where we were at. Because by the time I had entered the Q course, I don't see lines on the map. I actually see the terrain, which is fairly unique. So I was like the human GPS. So
that's important though, right?
Yeah, especially
that's key.
When you're getting evaluated on leading a patrol and you're supposed to be the guy, and I'm just. I've already did my patrol. I'm just carrying heavy weight in the woods at this point, and you're like, "Hey, where are we at?" And I'm like, "We're right. This is it. 10 digits. I promise."
Don't use your finger.
Yeah.
Pick up that pine needle.
Well, and why can't you use your finger?
It's your finger's too big.
Yeah, it's too big.
Especially your fingers.
Yeah. Use
what about yours?
I pass.
Equally useless.
Well, I think there's something to be said for being empowered a little bit by being a prior service guy.
Yeah.
So coming in as a Ranger Battalion dude and having young guys look at me and figuring out your resume, and it made it.
Yep.
I don't want to say easy. That's a fucked up thing to say, but there's definitely I'm the dude.
But then you also had your previous. You didn't want to be judged by your. You were a Ranger. Oh, but he quit PJ school. Like you couldn't take that back.
I guess I never thought about that. It was more empowering. Like you look at these young dudes, because I'm like a middle-aged human. I thought I'd be dead anyways. But they're looking at you like, well, this is a Ranger dude. So there's quit's not even in the equation, but there's also an empowering factor to that.
Right,
you make shit look easier because you're a fucking Marine, dude. And now you're doing selection.
Right.
And everyone looks at you because who knows where they came from. At least in my world, they're young kids. They're off the street for the most part or cross training.
I had the exact opposite experience with that. Land nav was super hard for me. I learned land nav in selection.
And that's a nightmare.
What were you best at?
Rucking.
Really?
Yeah, just having a tick on my back. Yeah.
Just going.
Yeah.
What'd you weigh when you went through?
194 is what I started at.
What'd you start at? Wait,
very specific.
Oh,
yeah.
I was probably around 205, 210 pounds.
Oh, so you had some mass on you.
Yeah. So I joined the Marine Corps at about 150 pounds. And they made me sleep all night and eat 3 meals. And so by the time I got to the infantry, I was around 180 pounds.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to the Marine Corps, I was around 210.
Ooh, what was the post-selection or operational biggest fluctuation in weight? Go.
Almost always 21 pounds. Almost always.
Really?
Like every time I went out to McCall, I lost 21 pounds.
Okay.
And I never had it to lose.
So it wasn't a single operation. So for me, when I was in the Recon pipeline, I did pre-dive. And then when I graduated, there was no seat in dive school, and they don't worry. We're gonna hook you up. You're just gonna do pre-dive again. So dive school will be twice as easy. So then I did pre-dive again, and then went to dive school. And when I came back from dive school, at that point I'd probably been swimming 2,000 meters a day for almost 5-6 months, and I was down to like 180 pounds at that point. And that would have been kind of late in my career where I was kind of running around at 210.
I think level C SEER, I went in at 215 and came out 191.
And
that's 19 days.
I've been always fortunate. So I did SEER school I did the Navy SEER school and the
you got the double whammy.
Yep. Every time though, I always find something. So like I'm throwing food away the whole time.
Oh, fuck you.
Mine was
I was hungry. I was hungry the whole time.
No, we found stuff constantly. We had like the half a possum that we were cooking up, and nobody would eat it because it's disgusting. I was like, nah.
Your former group commander and I shared a roadkill squirrel.
No, nice.
Yeah.
Well, squirrel.
You ate a possum?
Yeah.
How was it?
Well, there's a reason it's not commercially available. But it's you can get it down.
Palatable. Good.
Yeah.
I fluctuated 25 pounds, winter strike, Afghanistan. Also, I was the stumble upon chow guy. Somewhere in Ranger School, I can't remember where it is, but we bed down, and it's definitely a period where they let you catch up on a little bit of sleep. It's also skit night when they make you build skits, and wherever the fuck that was. I'm hanging out, and I think I was taking a shit, and I wanted to build a nice spot and not surface burst or whatever, and I move a rock, and I find 4 cans of peaches.
Nice.
Just randomly. This is awesome. Chowbirds, again, another Ranger School thing. This very attractive person on a 60, and that's when I learned that 60, they had seats, because coming from battalion, and then I had already deployed and done things.
Some Black Hawk helicopters.
Yeah, Black Hawk helicopters. There's seats in them, and they're like, you have to buckle in. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That's a thing? But Chowbird, full of burgers. There's a bag just full of burgers and Snickers bars. It was amazing. Other birds, they didn't get them. It was amazing. A lot of food.
Yeah.
Mm.
No,
I was hungry.
I always come back. I guess also I have the ability to eat things and make a billy goat puke. But no, I think I've been a big outdoorsy hunty guy. So like even in Afghanistan, my whole team came back fairly skinny because they don't like goat meat. So there's more goat meat for me. I came back huge.
Yeah, did you eat yogurt?
I ate everything.
Yeah.
So you just eat stuff.
I just eat stuff.
Yeah.
If it's not killing them, I can hold it.
Same. The only time it caught me off guard a little bit is we're doing a sit down with some like Afghanistan, some village leader, whatever, and I'm starving. I'm absolutely starving. I got the goat meat in like kind of a oil based looking something, and then the flatbread.
Right.
And I'm just my Italian heritage came out, and I was scooping and scooping. It goes around a couple times, and then it is solid as fuck. And I'm like, oh my God, that was terrible. I never got sick, but it was pretty awesome.
I definitely got sick, and you can read about it in Coffee or Die magazine.
Oh, you did? Yeah. You almost got shot with a dirty ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nothing like having
That's not how you want to
an
go.
A&A soldier point his AK, level his AK at you while your pants around your ankles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's scary.
You never know what they're there for.
Yeah. What day of the week is it? All right. So you make it through selection with confidence.
Yep.
You head off to the queue. You PCS to Fort Bragg.
That's correct.
And what MOS did they select you for?
So what did they? I asked to be a Delta, and
Because you hate your life.
Because I was strong ranger my whole time in the Marine Corps, and I'm like, nope, I'm going to be a Delta, and I'm going to get all this great education, and maybe when I finish being a Green Beret, I'm going to do other things. Well, I wrecked my motorcycle on the way to selection.
Still getting in trouble.
And yep, and
What kind of motorcycle?
that was a YZF-1. So it was, it was a little bit fast.
There's Harley guys and there's street bike guys.
I just want to do a little quick PSA real quick. That is such a common thing. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about doing any kind of in-dock selection, whatever, just put the bike away.
Yeah, but that's like
Put
John
the bike
Lopez.
away.
He lost an arm.
That's how Lopez lost his arm.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
was going to selection, and he lost his arm.
Yeah. Well, wait till you get your beret on your head, and then get your motorcycle.
Yeah, then jack up your life and get 3 divorces.
Yeah, I T-boned a truck doing about 60, and intercostal tears and cracked ribs. So I was in SOPSI hold forever. So by the time I got through selection, I dumbed it down a little bit and started talking in grunts and moans, and they are like, this guy's a former infantry Marine and he can't hardly talk. That is a Bravo.
That is definitely
a Bravo.
Yeah, Bravo is weapons sergeant. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
it cut about a year and a half off my time in the Q course by doing that. And it's guns. I was like, this is a sure thing, and this will be the fastest way for me to get the hell out of this school environment and get to a unit.
What year was this?
So this would have been 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from there?
In the school or afterwards?
No, when you're done.
Yeah,
you
I'm all
with the
done.
queue.
And I spoke Indonesian, which pretty much, I don't need that in most places in Europe. So I ended up in first group out in Washington.
It is known as the Spanish of the Pacific.
What is?
Indonesian.
So everyone speaks Indonesian.
Indonesian is a Asian language made up by white people.
Yeah,
It's the Dutch made it up.
And it's got pieces of every language around it too. So like when I go to Malaysia, I don't always know what they're saying, but they always know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So it works. When I order food, I mostly get what I thought I was getting.
Which doesn't really matter because you'll eat anything.
I'll eat anything, but it's nice to have, a choice.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you get to first group.
Yep. Get to first group, and I'm so excited because at this point, this is the longest stretch of not deployed time I've ever had was the Q course. And it's just this new foreign concept. Like, God, the Army just wastes tons of time with you. I can't believe they're training me this long. And so I'm finally getting to a unit, and I'm so excited. And I get there, and, there's everybody's, moving around, getting ready for these deployments. And then I get sent to 4th Battalion, which doesn't actually exist yet. And I go into the building. It's lightly manned because it's not even a thing yet. There's just a building. It's not even a battalion, and I'm kind of frustrated because I left the Marine Corps to come over here for this high op tempo and to go do cool things in the night on behalf of my country, and I get shown into an office and we don't even have chairs.
So the reasons you left,
are just compounded.
In the Marines, you're now facing at your first assignment in Special Forces.
We didn't have guns. We had 2 computers, and we didn't have a full team. We had a warrant officer and one other guy, and he's like, "Well, we're both going to schools. You're on your own. Stay fit."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I stayed fit. We have a great gym and trainers, and I went and got fit, and that was my first 5-6 months in SF was standing up a battalion. And
when did that change for you?
So they told us it was going to be, I think, a 2 or 3 year time of just building a unit.
Yeah.
Which is literally what they told us about MARSOC, which is why I got out of the Marine Corps. And I've, fallen into the same trap again. But the 2-front war was going. And so that 3-year thing was right out the window. I got there in 2010. And by 2012, we were deep into our PMT to deploy to Afghanistan. So
what does that mean?
It's the pre-mission training. Okay. And it's where you come in and dot your I's and T's and learn to shoot, learn to patrol, make everybody on the team understand how to turn a radio on. And I think it's just a thing the Army started, actually DOD started doing to make sure every unit had kind of some consistency to their training, because there was a huge variance early in the war where some units were maneuvering on the battlefield and they really shouldn't have been doing that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's yeah.
So when did you get to deploy for the first time?
2013 was my first trip as a.
So you were in group for 3 years before.
Yeah, and which is another story. All the Green Berets are that I'm peers with. Some of them had 2 or 3 trips by the time I got my first one.
Right.
Oh shit.
And so I'm frustrated because I came for the deployments, but I've just been hitting up neat schools. Right. That they are not getting to go to. So, there was some professional jealousy that I couldn't rectify it. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of that was, group specific. So my first trip was 03-04. I came back, I was wearing DCUs with a combat medic badge. And I showed up to first group to take a buddy of mine from the Q course. We went to selection together a little bit. He was in the 2nd Battalion. Showed up to take him to lunch. I'm waiting outside the company area in 2nd. This is old 2nd Battalion. Mm-hmm. And
I'm still over in old 3rd Battalion staring at it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and guys are looking at me, and I've got my long tab and whatnot. It's not like they're looking at me like I'm out of place, but they're looking at me and they're looking at my combat patch and they're looking at my CMB and they're like, one guy goes, "Are you from 5th?" I was like, "No." He's like, "3rd?" I was like, "No." I'm like, "Where are you at?" I said, "I'm 19th group." And he's like, "God damn it." That's literally what he said.
I missed that whole period in first group where, first group didn't really have a big foot in the door for Iraq, obviously, and then Afghanistan. We had the SOTF down in the Philippines, which was not a kinetic thing, and everybody was going to war except for us. Yep. So there's a ton of the guys that were there. My seniors were highly frustrated, and just existing, watching that war happen. Because it's not like as a Green Beret. It's not like you can every 3 years you can just get orders to a different unit.
Yeah,
you're there for the long ride. So
that's got to be maddening.
Yeah, 100%. Because it happened to me later on.
It's like football practice and never having a game.
Never having a game.
Yeah. You're it's hard to keep guys motivated for that.
Well, and there's the time and place thing. You take a trip and then whoever rips out with you gets a fantastic trip and does a bunch of shit. You're like,
and I think, a lot of the discussions I saw, 5th group and 3rd group, just getting beat to death with the war.
Yeah.
And then, we have joint schools, and then the first group guys would come in there, so jealous to get in the war, but then you're telling stories about, partying in Bangkok and Manila, and the 3rd group guys have never had a a JSET. They've just been going back and forth to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And so they've never really done a trip that was not a life or death thing.
Yeah.
So
I saw that throughout because I graduated the Q in 03 and deployed almost immediately. But even where I was in the Guard, I saw the cultural differences between. I mean, there's always been a cultural difference between the different groups, but that divide started getting harder and harder and harder as the GWAT progressed, because we were leaning really heavy on a couple of groups just because that was their area of responsibility. And 7th and 1st were kind of the party groups at the time, just because of where they were responsible.
So everybody wanted everyone else's mission.
Yeah.
And then until they got it. Yeah.
But they balanced it out. Everybody figured out flying a guy from Kentucky is equally as difficult as flying a guy from, Washington.
Yep.
So
where was your first deployment to?
My first deployment, would have been Nepal. Was the first thing I did as a Green Beret. Went to Nepal.
And then when was your first trip to Iraq or Afghanistan?
It was in 2013.
Okay.
So
Nepal's a cool country.
Nepal, and I was like,
that's one of my favorite JSETs.
That was a neat JSET. Yeah. I still remember being kind of a hard charger, and they had a van for us to take us to it was a Nepalese Ranger camp.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not riding in that van. It's only like a 2-mile walk. I'm going to walk up there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so I walked down to the hotel lobby to get a cup of coffee, and my hands were shaking so bad from walking across the hotel lobby. I could not drink my coffee because the altitude
difference.
Bit of
elevation. Yeah.
So I had pretty much hit my cardio level by walking to the hotel lobby. So I got in the van, even though I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So where was your first trip to Afghanistan or Iraq?
To Afghanistan as a Green Beret.
We were happy to get there.
Yeah, because all my trips in the Marine Corps were Iraq.
Okay.
So I'd always, the whole reason GWAT started was Afghanistan, and it seemed wilder and more austere. You always see the gunfights in the mountains, and guys patrolling and in these like crazy valleys, and I wanted to be a part of that. And then I kept going to Iraq and running over IEDs and shooting people from in the middle of villages. It was not what I kind of imagined as being like a warrior. It was more just driving around.
Did you get what you wanted in Afghanistan?
I did. Yeah. So we got there, and I didn't know any better, but I really wanted the commando mission because I wanted to land the helicopter and jump out and shoot everybody that was bad. And instead I got a VSO site, which is village stability thing. Operations is where ODA would live basically in a village, set up a police department that wasn't worse than the Taliban, and then just own that space and kind of keep that village at a low simmer. So that was the first mission I got, and then it was, it's kind of when I imagined being a Green Beret. That's what we were doing. So we'd work in the village all day, and then at night we'd link up with our Afghan special operations team and go get in gunfights with them, or we'd go grab the Afghan local police and drag them kicking and screaming into a gunfight. And I was like, this is why people come here.
That's awesome.
Where were you on that trip?
Miri in the Andar province.
Andar.
Yeah.
That sounds very Star
Big party
Wars.
town.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that segue that into how you got this?
Oh, well, so I'm living out there with my team, and I'm riding high. I have a great beard and awesome sniper rifle that's painted up just perfect.
Just being an SF dude.
And pretty much anything I could come up with, we got to go do it, and it was the best. And then 2013, I don't know if you ever look at the war, we drew down to leave. Mission success. We're getting the hell out of here. And 2013 was one of those times. So they closed our site, and they offered me to stay in country and work at the company headquarters, or to go home early. So that was an obvious choice. Even though I would not be on an ODA, I'd rather be in country than stateside. So at least something might happen. So I volunteered to work on the AOB as the weapons sergeant, and went from the coolest bearded sniper in any mirror I owned, to fill in ammo requests and fixing guns for our ring route convoys, and not being a part of them, not even being able to get on a convoy to deliver the supplies to the ODAs that were still working was fairly frustrating. But I was in country, so I'm still hopeful that something's going to happen, and nothing really did. And we had our change of command. We had a new commander replaced our old commander while we were in country, and while we were rehearsing for the
was that Jamie?
Yeah. Alden, yeah.
Jamie and I were in Robin Stage together.
He just mentioned me that this morning. Yeah. But he was leaving, and we had a major caster was coming in, and we were rehearsing for this change of command, which was surprising, really, because Green Berets are notorious for being terrible at performing functions as that the Army likes. Yep.
Terrible.
If you want to see some stuff, and I wasn't big on it in the Marine Corps, but man, I've seen some formations from like, good Lord, this would have been better if we just skipped this whole thing. But yeah, we were rehearsing for it to get it right, and the Taliban launched an attack on the FOB that we were on, and they initiated with a 3,000 to 4,000 pound VBIED, and blew a hole in the wall of the camp.
So y'all were having a change of.
Yeah, so
we're having a ceremony. They attacked you during the ceremony.
The only reason
that is incredibly rude.
It is
very rude.
And Earl doesn't stand for rude behavior.
I do not tolerate rude behavior. One of the reasons, the primary reason I was able to get down there so fast is we had just taken a company photo of everybody that was on the deployment. So of course, I got dressed up and grabbed my big sniper rifle so that the picture looks cool, and I hadn't taken it back and put it up yet. So my stuff was still sitting in front of the company operations center.
Please tell me you were wearing your Green Beret.
I was not wearing my Green Beret because
damn it.
I had a super cool Ops Corps helmet that I was really proud of. That was great. You should see it in the picture. It looks amazing. But I got dressed so fast because my stuff was sitting up from taking that picture.
What was the rifle? What were you carrying?
I had a Mark 20, which is a super neat rifle. For patrolling Afghanistan, worst rifle ever to have taken to that particular event. And if I had known that they were that close, yes, I would have taken anything else besides that thing.
So they blow a hole in the wall, complete surprise attack. Everybody's doing, photo ops and handing out awards and whatnot, standing in a rectangle.
Yeah, we had gears. Everybody's getting accountability of the equipment so that the commander can, the incoming commander can sign for it.
Yeah, so layouts and whatnot. Total garrison attitude right then.
Yes.
And then boom.
Boom. So I was actually hanging out in our med shed, harassing a kid that was getting IV because he had diarrhea for a couple days, and I was, messing with him while he was getting his needles put in him. And then we all got knocked down to the floor from an explosion. And at this point, we'd been getting indirect fire almost daily for about 2 or 3 weeks. So we were pretty immune to it.
Right.
And it wouldn't be bad. It would be a few rounds. And most of the time, especially for the Green Berets, we wouldn't even take cover. We just continue working. The big Army base would sound the alarms and get in their bunkers and take accountability for 2 hours. And we would just, finish whatever work we were doing. And our initial assumption was there was just to degrade the camp's ability to get work done because they knew that we had this big reaction every time a round landed. But what they were doing was just conditioning the camp to always get to these bunkers. And so, my original suspicion was that we just got hit, directly by a indirect fire. And but I come out of the med shed, and I was going to tell everybody we're okay. Don't be running over here freaking out, because I assume they all noticed that this building has been hit. But I walk out, and everybody's under the same assumption that the building they're in is the one that has been hit. And I turn and look, and I just remember seeing this just gigantic mushroom cloud billowing up into the sky. And I was like, that is new. And, just kind of taking it in, because it was actually, just pretty surreal, because, I'm in a Afghan valley that there's these snowy mountains in the backdrop, and then now there's this nuclear mushroom cloud building up in the sky. And other than that, it's a pretty day. It's a not a cloud in the sky, and it's sunny, which is kind of neat. And then I started putting together that there's literally nothing back there. There's not a vehicle checkpoint. There's no presence on that side of the camp. It's like, what the hell did they blow up? And then we started hearing small arms fire pick up, and I was like, that sounds like it's maybe a mess. So I wasn't for sure what was going on down there, but I knew that I was going to go be a part of it. Ran, jumped in my stuff, and
did you grab your whole kit at this point?
Yeah. So while I'm looking at it, I'm probably like 20 feet from my gear as this is taking place. So I run, jump, put it on, and looking, I'm like, all right, how am I going to get down there?
Still with your Mark 20.
Still with my Mark 20.
Yeah.
And I was, everybody goes through phases in their career. This is what I call my sniper phase, where I was a super sniper, and the best thing that you would ever want was me, because I'm a really good sniper. Just ask me. Way more annoying than almost any fighter pilot. And I got my gigantic sniper rifle, and one of our mechanics pulls up in this Toyota TRD, and he was out getting our mail, I guess. And as he was coming back to the camp, the Taliban had another base of fire on the other side of the camp, and they shot him up a little bit when he was trying to get back into the SF camp, and he was not excited about it. He took off, and he left the keys in it, and the engine was running. So I was like, well, that's how we're getting there. And as I'm running over, I bump into another buddy of mine, Nate Abkemeyer, and he said, I remember him like, I'm driving. And I was like, cool, you drive. I don't want to drive anyway, because I'm a sniper. I need to snipe things.
I'm a sniper. I'm not a driver.
Yeah.
So like I copped you or something?
He gets in there, and then we start to pull out, and we almost run over another buddy of mine, Drew, and he's on a four-wheeler. And I just remember yelling, I was like, get in with us. You're going to get shot to pieces on that stupid four-wheeler. So he, runs and jumps in the back with us, and we pull through the gate. And, as the weapons sergeant, I make the base security plan for the AOB, and I'm supposed to implement it. So I kind of have a moment where I'm like, I should stay here and run this. But there's nobody there because everybody's at the damn change of command. And, I had...
There's nobody direct.
Our operations sergeant's there, and he's like, I got this. Nick Umble, he sounds like he's gargling gravel all the time. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to lock this gate. So you guys pull through. I'm going to lock this gate up and do my one part toward, base security and keeping the bad guys out of here. So I go, and the gate actually got kind of put out of whack by the blast. So I'm kind of fighting with it. And I get out there, and the hotel has noticed the Toyota and has taken it under fire. So those guys were,
That
ready.
was their base of fire, was the hotel?
It was, they had
a base of fire?
It was a base of fire. Yeah. There was actually 3 VBIEDs that were supposed to attack the camp that day. So I think the part of the story I'm about to tell, I think, was a part of it, maybe a distraction. But the main part never happened. And then, so they had all these fighters with heavy weapons in the hotel attacking the opposite side of the camp from where this blast has occurred. And the only thing they can really see moving is this black Toyota. So when I finally get the gate shut and climb over, everybody's, get in here because let's get the hell out of here because they are shooting at the truck. And so we haul ass out of there and head toward the blast. And we get about halfway there, and our motor pool is coming up, and it's just getting hammered with rockets, with mortar rounds, and you can see good long bursts of PKM fire just racketing through there, and we're like, maybe we should go check on these guys. And we look in though, and they're all doing their thing. They're manning their towers, and people are pointing and running, and we're like, that seems like it's mostly right. So we push down and then link up with our company warrant and then a medic from another ODA. And they're on a four-wheeler. And, they're giving us a thumbs up. You guys going down there? We're like, yeah, we're going down there. Let's get after it. And, so we drive down this little dirt road, and we get kind of almost to the airfield, which is on the far side of this airfield is where the blast has occurred, and we're kind of crossing the main road that has access to it, and it's the last kind of covered and concealed area. So I tell the driver to slow down because I'm a sniper, so I'm going to get up on top of this wall or this tower. I'm looking for a good spot, and I'm going to like cover this airfield, and I can see they have another base of fire that's over this breach. I can kind of see them. I'm like, I'm going to get me a good spot, and then the guys on the four-wheeler pull past us just a little bit, and then instantly just get hammered by a massive amount of a small arms fire. And I can see him, getting shot up, and I can see him getting hit. And I remember, turning to Nate. I was like, "Hey, pull this truck in between them, and we'll climb out on my side, and we'll drag them back because we could see them all getting hit and going down."
Were they injured at this point?
Yeah. So as they pulled past us, they all caught a few rounds. The driver of the four-wheeler, got shot in the forehead. And his helmet stopped it for some reason. It was that. Wow. Yeah, the Ops Corps makes a hell of a helmet. Yeah. But as he fell off the four-wheeler from that, he got shot in the legs, and then the guy on the back, which was Chief Colbert, and he tells it different. He likes to say he got shot in the upper thigh, but I was there. He got shot through the ass, real bad. But I didn't actually see that he got shot in the ass. I just saw he arced out and hit the ground, and I thought he was dead. But we're gonna pull in and let this small arms fire get absorbed into the truck, climb out on the other side, just like we were taught and rehearsed, and we all know what we're about to do. And I kick my door open. And I got my sniper rifle, and I'm ready. And I kind of turn it so the buttstock's facing out of the door because it's a large rifle, and a Toyota's a nice truck, but it's not made to hold a sniper rifle. Anyway, we start that turn, and we pull right in the middle of basically their rally point for after they have sprinted through the breach. They're wearing Afghan uniforms, which kind of threw me off for a minute, and I was like, well, perfect. I'm a Green Beret and a train advise assist. That's what I do. I'm going to get these guys rounded up, and then now I'm really going to make a difference because I've got a squad of Afghans. And anyway, all that's flashing through my head, and they all turn, look at me, and just start shooting the shit out of us. And because they're not Afghan army, they were they were Haqqani fighters.
What were they wearing? Woodland?
Yeah, they're wearing Woodland, and they had plate carriers, and it was actually done pretty well. Yeah, their uniforms looked right. They just, I think the main thing is they all had new tennis shoes on, and I just remember I've never seen a new set of shoes in this damn country.
I don't think most people unfamiliar with Afghanistan, or even people that are familiar with like early days, can have really any kind of imagination for that, because they just think like dudes in turbans or pakuls in the hills firing an AK they got from their grandpa.
Well, and that's what they usually do look like. And these guys had brand new uniforms. They weren't dirty. And like the new shoes thing, that kind of sticks out in my head because I was like,
it's remarkable.
I haven't seen a new pair of shoes ever here. And why aren't they wearing boots? And
what color were they?
They were white.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I was picturing.
Yeah. Like a clean white shoe.
Yeah,
like Reebok Run Walks.
Yeah, there was a specific brand that they used to pick up in Pakistan. I can't remember what it was.
They're like the Adidas knockoff. Yeah, it was like Nike Adidas,
Adidas or something like that, or LT Gray. I don't know. It was something crazy. It was something weird.
So, which is exciting, because they're 10, 12 meters from us, and they're shooting in here into the truck, and my rifle's backwards at this point. And that's, this is every combat story. You always think there's going to be dramatic music playing and the slow-mo. For me, all my cool combat stories, I trip on something or, so this is like Benny Hill music is playing. So my rifle's, the wrong way around, and they're shooting at us like super close. And the whole time I was like, I think they got Earl. But I got my rifle turned around and just kind of push it out in front of me, and I fire one round, and the damn rifle jammed, which is like the only time I've even seen a SCAR jam ever, but it was that day. And I think I just, when I pressed it out, I think I put the charging handle against the
ambidextrous
door,
charging handle. Yep.
And it induced a very complex malfunction. So I had like a double feed with a 7.62 gun. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And then, I just remember being heartbroken. I was like, damn.
That's how it ends.
Yeah, dang it. I want to die here with a jammed rifle sitting. I just remember not want to die sitting down on that seat, But I've been, just been beat to death by two different organizations. When that rifle goes down, that pistol comes out. And, as soon as that thing jammed, I transitioned my pistol, and I just, leapt out of that truck. And I was like, I'll probably get one of them. And the best thing I can do is create space for Nate and Drew, and then they'll get them. It's like, all I got to do is buy those guys enough time to get out of that truck, and they'll be able to fix this. But I'm a goner for sure. Because I just remember like walking toward this guy. I remember his rifle going off, and I could see the muzzle flash. I could see the brass flying out of his gun, and at this point he's under 10 meters from me. I'm just assuming I'm getting hit, and I was like, I just can't feel it. And anyway, pulled that pistol out and closed the distance with those guys, and I fired 2 rounds, and this guy dropped like the marionette strings had been cut, which I was like, you always hear these terrible stories, the 9mm just not having stopping power.
Right.
But he met all my training. Like if he's got a vest on and you have a pistol, you can shoot him in the face or you can shoot him in the pelvic girdle. So I fired 2 rounds into his pelvic girdle, and he was just dropped him instantly. Like so fast, it caught me off guard.
That's a lot of presence of mind, man. I don't know that I would have had the. I don't think
it was presence of mind. It was a switch, and so that decision had been made on a flat range, 2 years prior that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So and that's and then I transitioned to my next target, and then just continued to move to cover, and I would just transition through all those guys, and I think when I hit them, they all knew I didn't know this at this point, but I think they all knew they had suicide vests on, and they definitely didn't want to be near anybody getting shot, because I remember when I got to, I was like, why did that work? Why did those guys just run off? Because there's probably like 5 or 6 of them that I rushed, and I was like, how did they not kill me? Or like, because at this point, if they just had sticks and ran over to me and hit me with them, they'd have probably won. But I think they're like, oh shit, that guy's hit. Let's get away from him before his vest detonates.
Before he blows up.
Yeah. But I haven't figured that part out yet. I'm just impressed that I got to cover or concealment, because it was not cover, it was concealment. It's an empty water tank, which is notorious for not stopping bullets. And so I'm behind this plastic tank, and I got my pistol, and I'm like, I don't know how many rounds are left in this thing, and my rifle is I look down, I can see a big mangled piece of brass jammed underneath a round that's in there, and I'm like, how am I going to fix that? So I was like, I need just a little bit more time, and I could hear the guys behind me, screaming for a medic. Chief's hit, Matt's hit, everybody's hit, and I was like, okay, well, I can't go back there. I have a hand grenade though. I'm going to pull this hand grenade out, and I'm just going to throw it in between us. And I think everybody should be smart enough not to walk toward a hand grenade. So I pull the hand grenade out, and I just kind of throw it blindly around the water tank. And then, but as I start my throw, I see the first guy I hit. He's still laying there, and he's not dead, and he's still on his gun. He just couldn't. He couldn't walk anymore, so he's just kind of laying there behind his gun. So as soon as I pop my head out, he looks up as that grenade goes, and the grenade just sticks right under his left hip, in between the ground and him, and it just sticks, which is like a super lucky throw, because I didn't even know he was there. And I just remember looking at him in his eyes, and he was like so pissed off.
Yeah.
that I had done that. And he didn't even try to roll off the grenade. He didn't even like swipe at it. He just, he stayed on his sights and then tracked me back behind that water tank. And I pulled back behind that tank and, locked my bolt to the rear, stripped the magazine out, clawed all that crap out of there, and put a fresh mag in and sent the bolt home. And then the grenade detonated. And, only guys that have like really lived on the range will get the...
That's fast.
That's fast, right?
That's
I was
fast.
like,
malfunction clear
nobody
fast.
cares except for me, but I'm like, I cleared a complex malfunction in 3 to 5 seconds.
I'm the perfect guy to talk to because this is like my baby. Like, we need to do malfunction. You've done this.
Yeah.
I'm extremely impressed right now.
And so I was like, did you guys see? Nobody's there to see that I...
This is the guy that taught me how to fix a bolt override. So
yeah. And I'm like, you guys, that's, especially with the Scar Heavy.
For sure.
Because it's like it's a beast, and I'm like, it's worked it perfectly right now. And
He went from I'm going to die to like,
hell yeah.
I'm going to die and no one got to see how awesome I really just
Oh
was.
my gosh. I can't imagine the moment of my gun was down, everything's fucked, to I just cleared it, bolt just went home, let's do some shit.
And then, but I was, my moment of jubilation was interrupted because I started hearing a snap thump and then like dirt. And my biggest perception is I just remember I hate sand. I've hated sand ever since I decided to be a Force Recon Marine. And anyway, I just remember sand running down the back of my shirt, and it's just such an uncomfortable feeling. And even in that like amped up thing, I was like, that is so annoying. That's going to annoy me all day, maybe.
It's going to get down to the ass crack.
Yeah, it goes everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
And it sound like Anakin bitching about it, but it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
And so I look, and there's another fighter. He's like 100 meters out, and he's in a prone supported position, and he's just like, slow aim fire, and he's almost hitting me in the head, but he's like off by like 4 or 5 inches. So it's not hitting me in the head; it's hitting the
That's
dam.
where the sand was coming from?
That's where the sand was coming. It's hitting the wall behind me, and I'm like tucked up against the wall. So all the sand is like running down my back, and I look and I'm staring down. But 100 meters is not incredibly far, and I have no idea. Whoever taught them their zero must have worked for us, because there's no way, even with a potato gun, I'm going to miss a 100-meter shot. But this guy, missed like 8 of them. So I was like, 100 meters. That is my zero. I'm going to hold center and send it. So I'm in a kneeling position. I pull my Mark 20 up and I fire 1 round and I remember holding at the notch of his neck, and man, right when I break the round, the guy just vaporizes off the planet, gone. And
because I was hoping we would have another jam.
no,
I was getting nervous. So
I was like, unbelievable.
We're going to head over to the FN booth and have a talk.
Yeah,
I have a problem with nerding out. So what was your optics package?
I had at that point, the Mark 20 had a Night Force on it with like a 5x15, I believe. Yeah. Which I remember like this is the worst scope. This is the worst. Yeah. So, and this is like the only time I looked through the scope for the whole day. And which, I went and confirmed my zero the next day, and it was still dead on. And I threw that gun over a wall when I ran out of ammo. So I was for sure that would have ruined it, but it didn't.
Awesome.
But anyways, this guy, it's just gone. Like the round hit him, and so there was Polish tanks maneuvering back and forth. So I was like, somebody figured out that they're on base. So I thought maybe a tank had fired. So I started looking around, and no, nobody. There's not one. And then I was like, yeah, I just shot a suicide bomber in the vest, and it detonated.
Awesome.
Which I've been on my to-do list.
Bucket list.
The entire GWAT. That's where I want to get that
That's
done.
a Hollywood moment.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Like something
phenomenal.
That never happens.
No.
And that's why when it does happen, everybody talks about it.
Right.
I was like, so I just nailed it. Not only am I a super cool sniper, I just shot a suicide bomber with my sniper rifle, and his vest detonated. Nailed it.
It's the best of all things.
Yep.
All at once.
And so then I'm like, I wonder if he's the only one with a suicide vest on, or if there's more. I hope it's the only one, because the rest of these guys are like tucked into these containers, and there's no way that I'm going to get to shoot them from anything other than 10, 20 feet. And so I'm like, do I stay out here in the open? Because then that base of fire is still out there, and they're kind of shooting back and forth. And was like, well, I got them right here. What I don't want is I don't want to let up on them because I don't want them to maneuver. So I was like, everybody's coming. I just threw a hand grenade. I got this Scar Heavy out. All my guys are right behind me. They're going to be here any minute. So I went forward. And so I went down to where I saw them run off. I get about halfway there. And everybody hangs muzzles from behind the cover they were using. And they just start, lighting me up again. And I came down, and I remember just indexing turret caps. Mm-hmm. And I'd break 2 or 3 rounds because it's not the best way to shoot a target. And I'm giving everybody a little bit of love. And then I run out of ammo again.
Actually, so indexing turret caps basically means that you're trying to use a long gun with makeshift iron sights, essentially, because of the close proximity. And and everybody that I'd ever done a training package with, they were like, "Hey, just in case something stupid happens, here's what you can do." Mm-hmm. And that's what I ended up doing. Which it worked. I don't know that I got a lot of hits, but I was definitely able to tuck them back behind cover. Plus, I had a brake on my gun, so it sounded like a flashbang going off every time I broke a round. Good. Scary.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. So I'm thumping away with this thing. Anyway, it goes dry again, and I'm like, well, sure, okay. I never reloaded my pistol. So I was like, there's only like a few rounds in that thing. I'm not transitioning. I'm gonna speed reload. That's the right choice to make. And so I dumped my mag and I horsed this monstrous rifle up vertical because I'm not quite strong enough to just hold that thing for a speed reload.
That's a heavy ass gun.
Yep. And as soon as I dump the mag and super elevate the muzzle, the nearest fighter to me just slings his rifle and, just movie script stuff, screams Al Akbar, and just starts sprinting to cover the distance. And I'm like, okay, shit. Like nobody does. That's definitely this guy's definitely going to tackle me and detonate his suicide vest. Or why would he put his gun down? So I finished my speed reload, and he's about from me to you, and I just drop the gun and just hammer him with 3 to 5 rounds, and his vest detonates. Except for this one hurts because it's like super close. So that just ricochets me off the HESCO wall, and I don't think I got knocked out, but I definitely got TKO'd a little bit. And I remember I kind of opening my eyes and hearing that whack thump again, and then that real big heavy gravel that they make every fob with. It's like really hurts your flip flops.
Yeah,
that's what I'm like laying in, and I remember the rocks are like exploding in front of my legs. I'm kind of sitting there, when my legs cocked out, and then the rifle's kind of jammed into the ground, pinning my right arm against the HESCO wall. And I look up, and there's another guy walking down on me, and he's just he's staring over. He's making solid eye contact with me, staring over his sights. So he's hitting low.
Yeah.
So the rounds are landing in between my legs instead of hitting me, and I remember he was just staring right at my face as he's like cracking those rounds. So I just kind of arched my back out and ripped that gun up and hammered him with a good solid amount of rounds, and he just wilted under that. And I got back to my feet and get taken under fire from guys behind him, and I start to use the remainder of that magazine as a big fuel container for the UAV compound detonates. And then so there's this huge fireball, there's smoke everywhere, and my gun's empty again. And I decide I'm not going to do a speed reload, just see if I'm faster than the next guy that tries to do that. And also, where the hell is everybody? Because I've just run through 2 mags out of this Scar. There's a hand grenade. This suicide vests keep blowing up. Like, no way everybody's missing this. Where the hell are they at?
You get a 20-round box magazine.
Yeah.
And you're carrying, what, 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I run back down to the corner to see where everybody's at, and crash into Drew, and because he was in the back seat. So all the rounds that came through my door frame hit everybody else in the truck, which is what slowed him down. Yeah. So there, I was telling you, my mom prayed for me. That's why I missed those. And I remember Nate, who he got hit in the cat tourniquet. He had it up on his collar, so a round hit that, and then karate chopped him in the neck with it. And he was like, "You tell your mom that no more by name requests for the prayer. You can pray for everybody or nobody, because this is ridiculous."
It's a whom it may concern prayer.
Yeah,
It's a whom it may concern.
Did you call back that day and have somebody buy you a lottery ticket? Because I feel like things were in your favor in a lot of terrible situations.
Yeah. So, and I was like, when we went back and looked at it, there was like 300 rounds that they fired at me, mostly within 10 to 15 meters.
Yeah.
And so when even a blind guy should have got a hit on me. And
probability would dictate like one or two. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is I never stopped moving. Because that's, I was a recent Sephardic grad when I was there. So if you're not behind cover, you create cover with your muzzle, and then you eliminate the threat, or you move to cover, but you don't do middle ground there. So I think by me always shooting and moving, they just weren't good enough to get that hit. And I was.
That's essentially Sephardics are kind of like our varsity level CQB school.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many things in this story that are awesome to me. Like, I'm the malfunctions guy. I'm the transition guy. I wanted to know, did you gas your pistol up? Are you carrying?
The reason I never reloaded my pistol is I have a purse because I'm a sniper, and I have a combat purse that's got my ballistic calculator and my binos and all my my little Cobra hood. I have everything I need and all my extra mags
to do awesome sniper things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm an awesome sniper, and I keep it in that because I'm mostly doing like manual labor, so I'm concealed carrying with no extra magazines on my person. And
was this M9 or Glock 19 days?
Glock 19.
Okay.
Glock.
Yeah, no.
Man, yeah, I just didn't picture the M9 standing up to close quarters immediate action.
It'd be that weird. Did you hear about that Green Beret that got killed? Yeah, he transferred into his pistol and his locking block was broken.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's a common
sad
thing.
story.
Yeah. Well, you're the only person that I know in combat that's transitioned to their pistol and taken lives and done their job. I've never heard of it.
I asked that question a lot because, like, it seems like most of, like, in the early days of the GWAT, most of the civilian shooting courses, which I did a couple up at Moyock at Blackwater, it's all super pistol heavy. Like, everything's pistol for guys not in the military. And it's like, and then you start doing some AR stuff and you learn transition drills. And I've always asked guys, like, hey man, like, have you ever transitioned? You ever used your pistol? And the only guys that ever say they use their pistol, just guys I've talked to, is CJ Duggan, who's a CAG guy. He said, yeah, sometimes I'd go over a wall in Iraq with my pistol. Yep. And then some guys would tell stories about, like, there's apparently in Iraq, there's buildings with courtyards and all that stuff, and just an AR is just a little too big. It's a little bit easier to
a long gun.
Well, so yeah, I've always wondered. I've always been fascinated by that. Like,
so Earl you came into group at a time where that was an emphasis, because pre-GWAT, I mean, I went through the queue. 9/11 happened while I was in the queue, and I can tell you, like, pre-GWAT, there were specialized DA teams that were wearing, like, Nomex suits and 511 vests, and it was antiquated CQB because it had never been tested, honestly, and it was just handed down from range 37 and above that, and it was just kind of a trickle down effect, and it still is to that point, but it has advanced so much. Like, I remember a friend of mine from 2nd Ranger Battalion made it through CAG selection, and he was hitting me up for some pistol lessons before he went off to OTC because he was really worried he wasn't going to
be good enough.
He wasn't going to make it, and he had plenty of combat deployments with Ranger Battalion.
I mean, I've talked to Ranger Battalion.
They didn't carry pistols then, yeah?
Nope. There's 0 pistols, and the only reason I had one is I was doing sniper stuff with my SR-25 in Iraq, and I was like, I should probably bring this thing. Yeah. I used it as a tool for, when I don't want to sling the, SR-25 around or whatnot, I take it out. But the fact that you actually got to literally execute textbook so many things, from malfunction to shoot, move, communicate. I did every CT, which is a critical task evaluation. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And I did all of them, like, back to back to back continuously. And And, I don't agree with all of them, or I didn't at that point. And I was like, well, I guess so.
But here's the question. Did you look cool when you transitioned?
I looked amazing.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's like, what's the rule?
No,
Don't
I
get
look
lost and
number
always
one.
look cool?
Yep.
No, I looked like a train wreck. So my rifle was jammed, and I didn't have my sling on, right? So when I transitioned, and I still had this stupid scar, I pulled the pistol, and then as I pulled the rifle across my chest, and so I was like, I'm going to need my rifle eventually. So I just grabbed the buttstock and drug it out. So when you see me in your mind running, all cool looking, I'm dragging my rifle with the muzzle in the dirt as I'm moving toward the enemy. So no, I didn't look cool. I looked awful.
Wait. Stop, hold everything. You're shooting the pistol one-handed.
Yeah.
While running.
And dragging my...
Like a little child dragging its blanket through the hallway in the morning.
That would be probably an apt description.
Are you wearing peltors?
No, I had silence in.
Okay, silence,
So-
yeah.
But you did have like some here.
And thank God. So I turned my radio on in the truck, and I was like, nobody's going to be on the net, but eventually they will. And I'm going to tell them, I'm going to call down like God from the Navy SEALs, and I'm going to tell them everything that's going on and describe to them what's going on, because I was a super sniper. So I put that in because I was like, somebody will pop up on the net eventually once they get spun up. And I was like, but what if they call me and tell me to come back? Because that'll be annoying. So maybe I won't.
You're going to be out there on your own, just wreaking havoc.
Like snipers do.
Absolutely. Yeah. thousands of confirmed kills in that afternoon.
Right. But that's, so I just eventually, because I knew I was going to get better essay on what's going on. Eventually somebody would come up on the net. Mm-hmm. So when we're driving down the street, I put my Silence earbuds in, and thank God, or I'd be, I would be the deafest person on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it really rattles you. When you crack off a round because you don't have your ear pro in, and all of a sudden you're in a tick, you're still recovering from that ringing just from that first round. It's a real bitch.
Yeah.
So did your training? I always ask, did the notes you studied for the test match the test? Like the training?
Almost. It was like they were sent there to validate my training.
Really?
And had it scripted.
I feel like there's more to it. We got to have you finish the whole thing. I think the only thing that I haven't heard that I'm absolutely amazed and impressed with all of it, the El Prez. Did anybody happen to stand exactly like?
So if you, I'm kind of blazing over it, but when they're behind cover and they're so close, but I was doing the El Prez on around 3 to 5 targets every time I made an engagement.
Yeah. El Prez is what? That's 357 or something like that, or?
So it's 3 evenly spaced targets. It's 30 inches from shoulder to shoulder, and you run. Usually it's 2-2-2 across the board, or and then back with a reload on the other. It's a training evolution. But we always joke, and the way I quantified for the students, why the fuck am I doing El Prez? No one's ever going to present like this. I said you have to change the narrative, and again, training shit. To me, it's the same target moving, and I'm re-indexing my sights as I'm moving across. So that's how I always, taught it, or kind of built a little confidence in the drill that it was really about tracking your sights and moving your weapon.
Yeah, it's just about keeping your peripheral vision open.
Absolutely.
So, something a lot of guys will get in a gunfight, and they shrink down around the gun. El Prez will definitely get you out of your sights.
100%.
Because you can't see. And I've actually, been in a gunfight, and I transitioned. The bad guys ran out of the house and ran off to our right flank, and then so I turned, and everybody was really impressed that I saw them. Like, how'd you see those guys? They ran out of the building you were shooting at. We all saw them, and it's just when guys get amped up, that stress. They were down, and all they remember from that gunfight is the one window they were shooting in.
Yep.
So they didn't see everybody run out the back of the building.
Very common. CQB, even on the open range and firefights, everything. And it's almost like it is there's some sort of bro science in there, but your cones and rods in your eye, as soon as you bring things into your line of sight, like a aim point or even your irons, you get very drawn into that, and that's all you can see. So in order to like a low ready, the function of a low ready, again, in my mind, is that it's out of your eye so that you can have that periphery and kind of view more, because as soon as it comes up, you get dialed into it, on top of all the stress that happens with.
It's not confined to shooting.
No,
that's a thing in medicine as well. With emergency medicine, trauma medicine, tactical medicine, you get target fixated on. That's a big bleed. Might not be a big bleed. one in the armpit might kill him.
So it's like the guy in the, was it 14 Peaks or the Ascent or whatever it is? And he's like, when you think you're fucked, you're only 45% actually fucked?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
It's actually more like that video where you're trying to count something and the gorilla walks through it.
Right,
and
yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
sees the
Great
gorilla.
video.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that actually describes it the most accurately.
Yep.
And you can always, I can feel through this story when I tell it, I can tell, physiologically what's going on. Because when I'm doing good, I have vivid memory of, left and rights, what was behind my targets, and then, down to when I ran out of ammunition and that thing's detonating, and I was kind of getting my ass handed to me a little bit. At one point, I remember the backs of the brass coming out of my rifle. I have zero recall for what's past the end of my muzzle.
Very interesting.
And I was just, that's my brain was like, we are in deep shit here. I'm going to get rid of some of this information for you.
Yep.
Which to my detriment. I don't need to see the back of the brass coming out of my gun, but that's what my mind focused in on.
Mm.
And I remember that very vividly. Just like, I have no idea what was past my gun or what I was shooting at.
Does smell shut off in those situations?
No, actually. So the first thing to go, I remember the entire battle being fairly quiet. So it's called Auditory Exclusion. So I remember that. Like when I remember, I have smell. I can smell my gun. I remember the grenade smell, the Comp B.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked through where that grenade had detonated, I still remember that smell. And burning diesel. The biggest thing I remember was burning diesel because that container, I guess, was full of JP8.
And I think everybody reacts differently. So I'm also an auditory exclusion guy. Like when my stress level goes up and I have to focus, I stop talking. And when I'm with a team, I have to make a concerted effort to like take information, be concise, and make sure that I deliver it. I have to make myself do it. Other people are different. The fact that you remember the specificity of all these events. Now, I know that goes up, or it has for me in the past, but some people it's like a car accident. They don't remember portions or things or how did I get from point A to point B. There's big parts that get excluded.
I say the stupidest shit and trip over my words in immediate action.
It's like me every day.
Yeah. I'm like yelling contact front when it's off to the right just because it's...
I said something though.
Yeah. Getting blown up and I'm just a string of shit, fuck, shit. And then I remember I'm the medic and ask if everybody's okay.
Okay, so continue.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
All right,
we're in the truck. We're transitioned. We've done
Get back to the truck.
So I'm going back toward and the truck's not there. So, because when I jumped out, they did a reverse 180 and crashed into something, and then this answers some of my mystery, like where the hell everybody was at. Well, everybody was shot, and then one of the rounds came through and hit the child box on the Toyota. So it was like super weird. Like it came through the frame of my door and went, and then that didn't even destroy the latch, just clicked it down so that Drew was in the back, just ripping on these handles, and the doors were all locked. And so he jumped out and had been frantically looking for me, apparently. And anyway, so when I came running back around the corner, he had been running from where the truck had hit the wall, and we crashed into each other. And Drew also brought the worst gun ever. So he had an MP5.
Navy SEALs.
Yep.
No, wait a second. You've proven out the 9mm thing. Maybe it's not the worst.
It's not the worst. Yeah, if you get it right, but it's not optimal. So he's been doing some meets and things and stuff where like a pistol probably not the best thing to be running around camp with. So he's got an MP5, which is great. Unless you're actually doing CQB against people that are super dedicated. And I remember bumping into him. I'm like, Drew, I know right where they're at. And he's like, well, let's go get them. And I was like, let's go get them. So he and I charge off by ourselves to go put these guys down.
With your SCAR and his MP5?
Yep. We're going to go win now.
Yep.
And I was like, now there's two of us. They're going down for sure.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they weren't just sitting there waiting for us to come again. They apparently made a plan and had decided to do things a little differently. So Drew and I break off this little alley, and he's on the far left, I'm on the far right, and we're doing cross coverage, and we're moving and hunting back down, and we're getting down to the last guy I shot, and his vest didn't detonate. And he's just kind of laying there, and he's lightly smoking. And I was like, well.
As soon as you said that, I just pictured him going,
I put his vest is like,
oh yeah, right. I forgot.
Didn't so I was like, hey, Drew, stay away from them. They've got suicide vests on, which I should have brought up, before we rounded the corner.
Hey guys, real quick, forgot to tell
minor detail.
Yeah,
you didn't want to unmotivate him.
I didn't.
This guy's motivated. I'm taking him with me.
And it's just all we're doing is off roading, and you get a cool paycheck. I
circle back very well.
Yeah, I oversell things constantly. But he's like, huh? And the vest goes low order, which it doesn't explode. It just burns. So the explosives at this point have caught on fire, and it's this giant blowtorch that's probably 20, 30 feet in the air.
That's cool.
It was cool.
It is cool.
And I remember it was hot. I remember afterwards all the hair was singed around my arms because I'm a super cool Green Beret. I don't have a shirt on. I'm in a t-shirt.
But you didn't have your beret on, which is completely disappointing. But let me ask this question. So suicide vests get you guys super nervous, right? Like that.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, it gets your attention, right? Like it's a big deal.
Any explosive that I'm not in charge of gets me super excited.
Yeah, I don't like it. Even
I hate suicide vests just as much as I hate other people's landmines.
But I mean, like that's something like that's okay. This is way more serious than if you just had guns. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Belt bomb. Actually, belt bomb was scary because you couldn't ID it. Like a suicide vest, maybe bulky, but body armor threw it off. So I don't know. Elaborate on that. How did that look?
I couldn't even tell they had vests on. The vest was once we actually got a hold of a body that we only had one to kind of go off of. Everybody else blew up, but it really just looked like the old under soft armor for a plate carrier. So when they were just running around, I didn't notice the vest until they started blowing up all the time.
It was under the plate.
Yeah, so it's
like a platter charge with their body.
Yeah, and that's
what I was picturing. Yeah.
So that's how I was wounded. Was an AK brass with an undented primer hit me and stuck in my arm. Like so. Was
that the only injury?
So I had other ones. I herniated 3 discs in my back. That was like the actual injury. But yeah, afterwards, everybody was real upset by my lack of bullet holes because everybody else got shot, and they're like, "How did you not you got shot? You did." I was like, "No, I didn't." They're like, "No, he's in shock. He's definitely shot."
It's the shock.
Yeah, and it was. I just had that one piece of brass in my arm.
Crazy.
And obviously it was in his magazine. So when his vest detonated, it split that magazine open, separated the round and the powder, and then stuck in my arm.
Did it hurt?
I didn't even notice it until afterwards when I was like, I'm not hit, and then I went to wipe it, and I was like, what the hell is that? And it was, there was an AK brass stuck in my arm. And,
how far was it stuck in your arm?
Well, like a third of the way in.
Oh, so it was in there.
It was in there.
It was in there. Yeah, I remember it, like pulling on it. It had kind of created some suction, and it kind of popped out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As a medic, Tyr, how do you feel about that?
It sounds like a self-resolving problem.
Wear sleeves. Wear blouse.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the Army, it gives you PPE, and I, out there doing my own thing.
Yeah, but you look cool as fuck.
I looked awesome.
Right? Yeah, super awesome. I just want to keep bringing that up because I've got this whole mental model. I wish you did it in flip-flops. I'm just throwing that out there because that'd have been epic.
My whole vision goes back to him dragging the rifle by the buttstock in the ground.
The fact that you didn't say you were killing for God and country one-handed.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that. People that are not trained,
Well, also that it helps when they're in sitting room distance. I mean, anybody can make this shot. Yeah,
can they?
Well, okay.
Wait, hold on. But do you guys train dragging a long sniper rifle by the buttstock while shooting one-handed?
I've actually found tons of dudes. Either they fuck up and they don't sling their gun during a package, and they have to transition. Obviously, it's we train them to do so. And they have this one moment, it happens once, and they go,
shit,
what do I do? And then they tuck and they turn and they shoot, and then they're like, fuck, I'm never going to, be in that situation. Again. But transitioning from a vehicle to out, it's like,
I don't know that I would do it different because the last thing I'd want was, have that monster thing slung around me and then still, be tangled up in that truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've definitely held a 416 by the foreguard and shot one-handed, but that's on a range. That's a one-way range. Mm-hmm. I definitely haven't done that under duress or somebody shooting at me. I mean, that is next level.
Yeah, I like it. I do remember I was like, man, how am I going to reload the pistol? And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't bring any magazines. It's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, not an issue. I'm going to yeet that thing at the bad guy when I'm
done. Anyway, that, so Drew, obviously, as a living mammal, hates intense temperature. So he ran over to my side of the alley, and either that guy's vest cut loose all his frags, or they all had frags out, but they definitely all got their frags out. So he and I got hit with about 10 to 15 hand grenades.
It's terrible.
And we're just getting murdered with hand grenades. And to the point, later when I came back, I was like unnaturally not worried about the hand grenades. And I was like, everybody needs to calm down. They don't hurt you. And I don't know why I felt that way, but
they're not fireballs like they are in the movie.
No, it's just pump. It's over, and then I guess I was like, if it's gonna get you, you're not even gonna know. So don't worry about it so much. But everything was exploding. The junction panel. There was a generator junction panel, and it was almost big enough for both of us. And I would shoot and then tuck behind cover and then knock him, out, and then he'd shoot a little bit and then crawl back behind it. And this whole thing's probably 30, 40 seconds of nonsense. And I remember I actually, got hit with a hand grenade and, fell down. And then I remember something hit me in the back and I was like, what? I got my back. What the hell's that? And I looked down, there's a hand grenade on the ground in front of Drew and I just remember in the Marine Corps, they used to throw these damn hand grenades down the barracks and everybody would jump on them. It's like a thing. And I just remember I was like, I'm never going to do that. So I would kick the shit out of anybody that threw a hand grenade at me. I would always kick it. It's like, because if it ever comes up in combat, I'd rather, I want to be a Lee Petrie guy where like I attempted to fix the problem, not, 100% solve it with my body.
Right.
Anyway, so I kicked the shit out of it and it blew up somewhere else.
Jesus.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I'm the dumbass that was in the training evolution in the Army and the grenade came in and I couldn't kick wasn't an option. I just fell on it. My squad leader smoked the fuck out of me. He's like, don't fucking do that. That's for sure dead. Yeah. Like, don't fucking do that.
Pick another way.
Yeah.
So anyway, Drew, he's like, I remember him yelling, we got to get out of here. They're going to kill us. Like, okay. And he grabbed me and start that movement. And we started, traipsing down that wall. And I remember both of us just getting floored. And I don't know if it was a hand grenade or if somebody else tried to tackle us with a suicide vest. And there was about a third of a torso right in front of that. So maybe it was, but that could have been from anything earlier. Going back, because we went back through there and everybody had a suicide vest on, the forensics of the battlefield were imprecise. So it's hard to say, but something blew us down. And I remember, kind of being almost all the way with my chest on the ground. And I have slung my rifle at this point. And Drew's like pulling me up, which is like unnatural. He's like trying to yank me back to my feet, and we're still kind of scuttling back down this wall. And I'm trying to get my rifle, back in like the low ready, and it's all weird. And I can't figure it out. And there's like stuff is not right. And what happened was I modified my Mark 20 and I'd put a Mark 17 buttstock on it, so it folds now, and my buttstock's folded. And the reason it's folded is a forearm from just below the elbow had hit my buttstock and broke that little riser piece off that's all shattered. And I got like this rubbery, I remember picking it up and like, oh, it's an arm. And I grabbed it, but it felt more like a squid tentacle because every bone in it was just demolished. And, I was like, oh, that's the problem. There's an arm there's an extra arm in here.
Those darn arms, gotcha.
Yeah, which I remember, like, of course that's why I can't figure out my gun. There's an extra arm in here.
Yeah, we trained for this. Somebody throws a demolished body part at you.
So I ran around this little corner again with this arm, and I guess there was a bunch of at this point, soldiers and sailors who were trying to figure out what was going on, and their introduction to the battlefield was that I ran around that corner with an arm,
holding an arm,
and I have I don't even know what I was thinking, but I had the arm, and I was like, I do remember what I was thinking. I was like, this is evidence. Like, we're going to need these fingerprints for SSE.
Yeah.
So I threw it in the back of the truck. For later.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
That's what I did.
These guys are crazy. Yeah. They just keep body parts and run around with them.
That was there. They were like, oh my, so they were, I don't wish to participate in whatever the hell this is.
Yeah. I lost my ear necklace, so I just grabbed a forearm.
Sorry, yeah. And then there's Mark Colbert comes, limping up because he's got, that terrible wound in his ass. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And, you and Drew were like, same thing. Hey, they're right down here. We know. Let's go get them. And he's like, well, hell, let's go get them. And you can't have a cool war story without a Navy SEAL. So now there's a Navy SEAL, Lieutenant Turnipseed has arrived.
We have a Mark 20. We have an MP5. Tell me he's got a musket or a hatchet or something.
Guaranteed he had a hatchet.
So he's there. He had a hatchet,
hand, ready to go.
Perfectly gelled hair, no helmet, and a tank top.
Gator sunglasses.
No, he's done up right because he's there for the change of command. So he's got his pins and patches and looks kind of right. And he's. What are you guys doing? They're like, right down there. We're gonna go get him. And he's like, sure, yeah, of course we are. And Chief gets behind me, and I'm like going to lead him down there. So I was like, I'm going to attack mag, as one does, and there's no mags left on my vest. They're all gone. And I was like, ooh, we better check what I got in the gun. And so I pull my magazine out. There's one round on there, which means I have two. There's still one in the chamber. But I remember at this point, Drew and Lieutenant Turnipseed and have made their turn down the alley, and I'm not going to leave them hanging. So I step out there with them, but I'm like, "Hey, Chief, you have to take point." He's like, "I don't have any ammo." He's like, "You got to take point." And he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm out of ammo." And he's probably like, "What an idiot! Why would you take point with no ammo?" But he's like, "Sure, I'll take point. I'll just get shot more so you can run around." And so he cruises past me, and at this point, this Polish soldier and then a 10th Mountain soldier, Mike Ollis, come running up, and they're like, "Hey, can we come with you?" And we're like, "Of course you can engage the enemy in armed conflict. You're a soldier. Let's go."
Yeah, for sure. Dude.
Yeah,
this is great.
So we run down, and so we get back toward this junction panel, and Chief make tragic mistake. He's like, I think you boys got them all. And they were waiting for that. That's the only English they spoke. And they were to accentuate the punchline.
Did he say it?
Yeah, they said, "We're ready." So they guy lifts up and bounce passes us two hand grenades and, cacks his own vest off. And that's, the grenades land. I remember looking at it and I was like, huh. It's not even within 6 feet. I'm not even, who gives a shit? Let's go. Mm-hmm. And everybody else, though, this is their first hand grenades of the day. So they're all real excited. And I just remember, being horrified. My wife, hates that part of the story. She's like, "You're an idiot. If there's grenades, you hide from now on out. That's the new rule for the household."
You're like, "But all day, these grenades."
Yeah, I was like, I had such a great track record with it. And I guess they make crappy grenades in Pakistan, but so they blew up. I wasn't hurt. I ended up, kind of creeping back toward my little junction panel, which is my safe space for this particular day. And Drew, I remember him just yelling, like red bandana, and I was like, oh. So he probably got a little tear in him. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I just, he starts spinning like an arc. And that his little MP5 is running on full auto, and I remember I was like, "Whoa!" And he starts shooting behind us, and then I hear an AK behind us, and one of these guys had run all the way around the outside of this past all these other soldiers that had seen me with the arm, and nobody thought to shoot him, which is, the annoying part. Yeah. And I turn around and I see him firing at us from behind, and I fired my last 2 rounds at him. And whether we hit him or whether he just decided to detonate his vest, I'm not sure. But he'd closed most of the distance to Mike Ollis, and his vest detonated.
I'm going to go with you hit him in the vest and it detonated, because I like that.
Well, maybe. I think it was if I caused it, maybe Drew caused it. I just remember being like, well, that was it. I'm out. And then probably a quarter second or so later, the vest detonated. So I don't know if it was mine.
Got the pistol with it, what, a couple 3 rounds in it, maybe?
Yeah, I got my pistol. It's got no rounds in it because I transitioned one more time when I was trying to figure out my rifle. I transitioned, emptied my pistol as we were moving back down that wall. So my pistol is 100% empty now. Okay. And I was like, well,
you got no ammo, no grenades.
I got no ammo, no grenades, and
what about I thought Green Berets did a lot of stuff with K-bars.
So I actually had my pocket knife. I got it out. There we go. I had a big zero tolerance. I think it's a 0300, just a monstrous bigger pocket, because I'm a super cool sniper and I have a over annoyingly sized pocket knife.
As you should.
And that's what I got out. So I had my pocket knife out.
Man, I thought you were kidding. That's okay.
No, so I got my pocket knife out, and I'm what the hell am I going to do? And anyway, so I see Mike. Obviously, he just ate a suicide vest from like 3 feet. So I'm like, well, if I don't have any ammo, I'm going to be the guy. So I ran over and grabbed him, and drug him back into the UAV compound, and started treating him, and he was torn up pretty bad. So I stabilized him as best I could. And as I'm doing it, this was the last fighter that was there with us. But the base of fire past there is still, cranking RPGs and PKM fire at us. And I didn't know. So I'm like, and I don't know, everybody else kind of ran off to wherever they went. And I just remember being like really nervous. And I'm here, just my pocket knife, and I'm trying to treat this guy. And if they come in here, they're just going to shoot me in the back. And then I look over and I see a civilian contractor. And I was like, hey, come here. And he's like, what should I do? And so I'm like, hey, do you know how to run a rifle? He's like, yeah. So I send the bolt home on empty chamber, and I'm like, watch my back. And he's like, cool. So he's posted up.
It looks scary if nothing else.
I mean, at least I figure he'll be like, if somebody runs in here with us. And at
that point, you'll turn and get a knife.
Yeah, I'll figure something. I'll cross that bridge when it gets there. But I got tourniquets on Mike, and I'm assessing his injuries. I'm like, he needs more than an 18 Bravo. He needs a real doctor. But we're on a fob, so I'm like, we can get this kid. I can almost fireman carry him to the surgical center in 30 seconds. So I'm like, hey, do you have a car or something? He's like, I've got a mule. I was like, yeah, that's something. Go get it. And we throw Mike in the back, and I'm like, hey, get him to the hospital. And he's like, I don't know where it's at. Like, shit. This camp is tiny. How do you not know where the hospital's at? And another U.S. soldier runs up, and I'm like, hey, do you know where the hospital's at? And he's like, I know exactly where it's at. And he's got an M4. He's got no kit on. So I slap his rifle out of his hand. I was like, good, show him where the hospital's at. I'll cover you. And he was like super let down. But, they pulled out, cover him, and they blow on down the highway, and got Mike to the tent, I think like a minute later. And unfortunately, there was nothing to be done for him. He died at the hospital. That's all she wrote.
Absolutely unreal story.
What ended this attack?
So they had a 20,000-pound bomb that, in our opinion, was supposed to come and detonate on the main ECP, and then the forces that were in that hospital would be allowed to kind of run in, the forces that were in the hotel would be allowed to run in, or maybe that was the whole point of it, just to get that bomb far enough into the camp, because 20,000 pounds is like there is no place on that fob where you could survive that, even in a bunker. It's just too big.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really, really big, right?
That's like crazy big.
What do they estimate the bomb that actually went off?
So mine, not knowing exactly what it's made of, they're saying 3,000 to 4,000 pounds, just based on the crater and how big it is, and the common knowledge of the HME in the region.
Was this like a Kalat wall or Hesco?
No. This was I believe it was triple stack 11-foot Hescos across, and then a tier of 2 on top, and then 1 on top of that.
Wow!
And it blew. Yeah, I want to say like a 60-foot hole in that, and then monstrous crater.
That is a big charge.
So it blew my door off the hinges.
Yeah.
Were in my little can, and that can was 700 meters away.
Wow.
Yeah, it was strong. It was strong work.
Yeah.
So getting back to what actually ended the
I guess the fuel pump went out on this truck. So the guy just got out of it and walked off. The truck just broke down. So they're obviously those guys in the hotel are starting to catch hell from the Polish unit was like a light armored unit that has some fairly serious hardware. The Afghan army that's out in town, which they've been catching their own hell. There were several attacks all through the city. They're moving down there, and then the AOB had the most amount of Green Berets in one place, probably in the entire theater at that point for this damn change of command.
Yeah.
So they're all over there, shooting the shit out of those guys. And I forget exactly what they said, but they, and it's, I hate to be the body count. We killed thousands, but I think the Taliban even admitted we got 40 or 50 fighters were killed in that attack. And they considered it fairly unsuccessful. So they had several follow-on attacks through the country that they had planned that they actually just canceled them because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, because they were worried there were Green Berets that had pistols.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, that super cool sniper guy.
The super cool sniper guy.
Else.
Right. And for the only American soldier that was killed was Mike Hollis. While a tragedy, not a great headline.
Right.
Because we killed all the suicide vest guys as they intended, I guess. Maybe that was a win for them. But even just those guys, just that 10, 11 guys, they killed one American. Not a profound headline that you want to trumpet around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, honestly, it's obviously a tragedy, but the fact that only
yeah. So in hindsight, they had little, fairly well done little sketches of the camp.
GRGs?
With like a GRG.
Yeah.
And it had their little route. And what we kind of assume, because they were really loaded up. So they weren't just a pure suicide bomber that's just the vest is the main weapon. Mm-hmm. The vest was kind of like their last weapon. So they all had around 10 to 15 hand grenades. They all had around 10 to 15 underbarrel grenades for the AK 40 Mike grenade launcher. Mm-hmm. And they all had, like 20 mags of brand new Chinese armor-piercing incendiary ammunition that was pretty high quality. Mm. And so we kind of think that little assault force was supposed to run down that main avenue and then just kill everybody in those bunkers. Because once again, that preparatory fire kind of conditioned the camp to hang out in those bunkers. So we think they were just supposed to sweep down there and just do a mass casualty thing down that street.
That's an unreal amount of ordnance on a fighter.
Yeah, because typically you find them, they got 6 mags maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
And one of them has the spring hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, these guys, everything was brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that is wild.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story.
Yeah. I mean, as we established, I've known you for a couple of years. I've never actually heard this story start to finish. I've heard you tell a couple pieces of it. Jamie told me a couple pieces of it. No, I just never really thought to ask you start to finish.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, here it is.
Better yet, we did it now.
Holy shit. Yeah. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's nuts. It's completely wild.
That is unbelievable. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was rad. Super rad.
Oof. Where do you go from that?
Well, you know what? I think the only thing that you didn't do was offhand pistol shooting. I'm recounting everything in my mind, and it's absolutely the only thing that you didn't do.
Sock P.
I did not do any sock P.
Yeah, but you had the knife out.
I had the knife out. I had the good intent in my heart. I was ready.
Yeah, you were ready for it.
Extra large pocket knife.
I feel like if it had gone on another 5 to 10 minutes, you probably would have had that chance.
So yeah, and I remember, Drew was deep in it too, and I remember only scar heavy. So like as we kind of were getting back together, I was like, "Hey, are you out of ammo?" He's like, "No, I'm good." Like, "Can I have some?" And then he started looking through his kit, and he's like, "No, he's not. He's out of ammo too. He had 5 rounds in his last mag and his MP5." So I remember he stripped off 1 round and gave it to me. So I put that in my pistol, and I was like, "Damn, man, what am I?" And so I was like, I can't walk. I can't get back to the camp like this. So I did the other thing, like super annoying. In the 18 Bravo course, they're always giving you a bucket full of parts, and you got to build guns because that's going to happen one day. You'll see. It's like, well, I need a gun to get out of here. So I went and grabbed an AK off the ground, and it was like ruined. I had one of my rounds, my 308 rounds, had come through the magazine and stretched out the receiver. And I was like, oh, well, that one looks okay. So I go over to it, and it's got one of my rounds through the bolt. And I was like, so this thing's a train wreck. I was like, but together, that's one whole gun. So I pulled the bolt out of the one with the bad receiver, and I threw a bolt into the one that had a bad bolt. And that neither one of them had top covers, the dust covers. But they told me you don't need that. That's just a dust cover. So I put it together and tune, fired a couple rounds, and I was like, all right, well, there, scratched that. And I just remember being super annoyed at my small weapons instructors. I'm like, I'm never going to be on the battlefield and have to assemble a gun for time. That doesn't happen, but that's
unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
So all the training,
I did all the training.
He did all the things.
The only thing you didn't do was land nav.
I didn't do land nav. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was train associated,
which
between
it was so important in selection.
Yep. Didn't play any part in this story.
Tiny knots?
No, I didn't tiny knots.
No knots, no land nav. You need to adjust selection.
Yeah, they do. They do need to adjust selection. It's completely wrong.
Yeah. And maybe less running.
And I was the only, so I was injured. After we got back, I went to get a cup of coffee, and I was like, I'm going to take my kit off, and it's all topped up, and I'm ready to get back in the fight. Remember my back hurting, and the calmer I get, the more I'm like, man, this is really uncomfortable, because at this point I'm 33, so I don't know what a bad back feels like.
I remember my herniating. Did you feel like your body was going to fold in half once it settled down?
I didn't feel it until I took my kit off.
Yep.
So as soon as I remember, I'm going to drink this coffee and just relax for a second, and then I'm going to go help, because everybody's, we're at 100%. Every tower's got guys in it, and we're, still putting out weird fires, and there's UXO everywhere. And I'm like, but I'm going to take a moment to myself. And as soon as I unbuckled my kit, my body tried to break me in half, and that was all the muscles started spasming, and it was 10 kinds of painful, and my medic came, and I was, what the hell's wrong with you? And I described it, and he started sticking me with Narcs and Valium, and which really annoyed everybody else, because if you remember, I didn't get shot. Everybody else has like freaking bullet holes in them. And
you're getting the drugs.
And the chief's up in a tower all night, and they were like, "Where's Earl at?" And they're like, "Oh, they gave him Narcs, and he's in bed. He had to go to sleep. And they took his, you can't be doing Narcs and have a gun."
Yeah, well, you fine because you had one bullet anyway.
Yeah. So I got to, that night I slept all night and woke up rather refreshed, and everybody else was manning, a post all night.
When you think the story can't get any better, you just get a good night's sleep at the end of it. But you went hard in the paint early.
Yeah.
So you deserve that.
And you were ready to go the next day.
I was not. I remember getting out of bed the next morning, and I couldn't bend over to get my boots. And I remember I got my cell phone and called my buddy Ben. I was like, I can't get my pants off the floor, man. So he came in, and I stick my feet over the bed, and he worked my pants on, and put my boots on. He's like, tell no one this story. Only because the deployment was basically over, and it's culturally, I did not want to get medevaced. it's almost a worst night. Green Beret's worst nightmare is getting medevac. Even my buddy Matt, who was on the 4-wheeler, he got shot in the helmet from point blank range, and then shot through his calf, and he had a fairly significant hole in his leg, and he pulled the typical thing. The hospital down in Bagram's looking for him, and he got back on a ring route flight and was back in the camp 2 days later, and they were. It's like a Vietnam story that I grew up hearing. They're like, "Hey, no, this guy, you can see through him. He can't stay in country. He's got you can see through him." I got to stay in country, which was, in hindsight, the dumbest thing I ever did, because I needed to be in a hospital. I needed to start a rehab or therapy for the injury, and by staying in there, man, it really set me back kind of a long time before I was fully functional again. And,
how long was recovery?
Technically, it was 6 months, but only because I was in first group in the regiment, and I wasn't getting better fast enough, so I was on my way to a med board, but I was getting better. So our doc at the time, they pulled me off of the P3, which saved me from being med boarded, and with the unit understanding like, hey, like this is not a useful Green Beret. So it was about a year before I could actually function as a useful member.
You said there was 3 herniated discs.
Yep, and then 3 herniated discs, and I guess all the explosions had your pelvic girdle is like super susceptible to shock. And I guess all those muscles kind of got paralyzed. And if I had entered rehab sooner than later, it had been like, a 1 month problem. Yeah. But by toughing it out, and I met people there, and I was on narcs like that whole like last month. I was, basically high. Yeah. And I remember doing, I don't remember. People like, I met you at the end of the rotation. You did a handover with me. I was like, Was it after my morning coffee? Because that's when I took my drugs, and I was a very pleasant fellow.
Percocet's a lovely thing, and I love having conversations.
Yeah, and but man, all that stuff atrophied significantly. So then I had to like overcome just the pain associated with it, and to kind of learn how to live with that, and then rebuild all that, core stability so that I could function.
Does it still affect you today?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what their thing is, I fast forwarded from being a 30-year-old to a 70-year-old as far as like spinal health goes.
I just bulged 2 discs when I was young, and I remember the feeling after, and obviously not in nearly the dramatic fashion that you did, but I was overseas, and I remember after it happened, I felt like my body was going to fold in half, and I had this moment of, fuck, I'm going to own this one kind of for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just a simple back injury. Not as...
I didn't know what was wrong with me. I kept thinking it was going to heal up, because I'd never been hurt where it doesn't heal up. And I don't think I'd never been injured where it took more than like a week or two, to bounce back from it. Right. So I remember, especially it's something I look for now, is in the leader, when you're taught leadership, physical performance is one of the first ways to like display leadership as a young NCO. And it was like, so being the strongest, fastest guy was like a key part of my personality. Like, and then overnight I lost it, which was, in a blessing or maybe a curse, because I see my peers struggle with it as it comes on gradually, aging in the regiment, and sooner or later you're not the strongest guy by any means, and nobody's impressed with how fast you run because you are the slowest guy, and
but also you're probably a little bit more wiser than those young guys,
and that's where you transition your leadership style to I've done everything already. Like, I will tell you how to do it the right way, and I'll tell you the wrong way, and then I can't make you do anything. Right. But being like the guy with the experience, and there is a transitionary period in there where, maybe you still don't have, you're not the sage wizard yet. You're mid-road, and and it took me a while to like figure out a new way to be a leader. And
I became a team sergeant probably before I was ready to, and I was very physically fit at the time, and I didn't have like one traumatic thing that happened. It's just kind of like I turned 38 and my body said, "Hey, remember all that shit you used to do? Now you're paying for it." And I wasn't the fastest anymore. Man, that was a blow to the ego, and that was you hit the nail on the head with having to transition to leadership styles, because all of a sudden I couldn't just rely on I'm out front.
Yep.
Which is hard to do in special forces anyway, because you've always got new guys coming in that are younger and harder than you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not a realistic way to age anywhere, but especially not here. And yeah. But I like catching. And for me, I have a super cool story, and associated with my injury, and some guys don't have that. So that's a struggle bus for real. If you got maybe nobody, so maybe you jumped out of the helicopter before the crew chief said they were on the ground, and you bulged your disc being an idiot. Like, doesn't invalidate your injury. Like it's a little harder one to talk about.
Yeah, mine's an idiot story.
Yeah,
not even worth telling. Affects everything I do now, but yeah. Well, Earl, I know most guests we would say, "What's next for you?" or et cetera, so forth. But you're still on active duty.
So yeah, I'm still a team sergeant. I still have to go to PT with my team and not be the best. They tolerate it right now. And I'm gonna I think that's I had set my goal. I always want to be a team sergeant, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do after that. I'll figure that out later.
Yep.
And I think my first team sergeant in Special Forces, Brian Bolin, told me something. And I was like, I'm going to keep that for forever. And he said, they don't pay us enough to work here if you're not having fun. So the first day that you are driving to work and you're not pumped to drive, do yourself and do everybody else a favor and get the hell out of here. And so I think that's going to be my yardstick. As soon as I'm not super excited on my drive into work, I'll kind of drift on out the back door.
It's awesome advice. It really is.
Yeah.
So bringing this back around kind of to where everything started, what sage advice would you have for somebody out on the street thinking of doing this? Because I know there's no more go to war, go to jail. You can't get in a fist fight and end up where you're at anymore.
No, you do have to be more careful, man. Like the high school experience I had, there's 0% chance I could recreate that life. So you do have to be, you have to be more mature earlier if you wanted to a career in the military, because we're not, they don't tolerate it anymore. Yeah. I remember when I was in the infantry, like we had DUIs, every weekend, and we had a number that we were trying to cut it down to like that was acceptable, and basically if you were at E4 below and you got DUI, nobody cared. Like you might get extra duty and you're out $10,000, but nobody cared. Now, if you have a DUI, like there's a good chance you won't be able to enlist in the military at all.
Right.
And that's a hard one because, I'm a terrible example as a young adult. I did everything the stupidest way possible. And you have to, caution those. You almost got to get them while they're in junior high. Like if you have even an inkling that you want to be in the military, you need to start acting right now, which is pretty absurd, really. Like I like the idea that you have to be able to learn from your mistakes, and it seems like we're kind of getting away from that as just a culture in the country in general. Like
that's across the board. I mean, like there's people like you were talking about passing poly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think in the movie Traffic, the guy made a comment. He's like, "How do you fight the war on drugs if you've never done drugs?" And there's people that have done things in their past, just made a, I would rather be surrounded by people that have made mistakes and learn from them than like people that have never made mistakes. In fact, I don't want anything to do with people that have never made mistakes because I doubt we have a whole lot in common.
I'm not advocating drug use, but like when you're growing up, like if you've never experimented with stuff or tried things, I mean, you're kids. I mean, you can't expect kids to make good decisions. I mean, I was
why
very
they're not
similar
as
to
legally
you.
culpable because they're idiots.
I was very similar to you growing up. I did a bunch of dumb stuff, but like the decisions and mistakes that I made have an effect. They probably made me a better person as an adult, because it's like I can say, hey man, that's stupid.
As a dad, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did all the dumb shit.
Yeah.
And I can go, I don't want to guide them so much that I'm not allowing them to make their own mistakes, but I can tell them about the big ones.
Bumper rail them. Yeah.
Like don't do these big ones.
Nothing's worth drinking and driving. I don't give it, especially now that we have Uber and all that stuff. It's like drinking and driving, that's just stupid. But I've done it plenty of times.
Sure.
I'm not proud of it at all, but I have, and I think there's just a lot of people that would be better served. The country, government, all kinds of stuff would be better served if there were people that had made dumb mistakes. Mm-hmm. But now they go back and they look at people's Twitter profiles going back 10, 12, 15 years and stuff. And it's like,
I'm echo chamber for everybody. Thank God that stuff wasn't around.
Oh my God.
You want to talk to a real idiot. Yeah.
I mean,
find me when I was 17.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't want to be associated with anything I did or said.
Oh yeah. Same here. But yeah, I think that's, people that haven't made mistakes, like, they're just...
It's unknown. Or, the big, Special Forces seeks out, like, we want risk takers.
Right.
And risk takers get it wrong sometimes.
Right.
So, like, if you have somebody that's never ever been and got it wrong once, it probably means they never, ever really tried anything.
Or pushed anything.
Too far, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I have one of my closest friends, like, I don't know that he's ever... super successful guy, but like I don't know that he's ever made a mistake. Like, and he's hyper conservative, and his risk tolerance is virtually zero.
FBI agent,
exactly. ATF guy, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just like how can you how can you like in y'all's previous jobs, current jobs, like how can you read a situation like when you've never hung out with nefarious people or or hung around a bunch of assholes or just shitty people? Like how can you go from being like this pure person that's never made a mistake or gotten in trouble, and all of a sudden we're going to insert you or you have to interact with the worst sons of bitches on this planet, and we want you to do a really good job with them?
Yeah, I never thought about it. I guess, yeah.
You got to mix it up a little bit. You also use my favorite word, which is nefarious.
I like that word.
Tyr
taught me. I like the word malicious as well. But Tyr, one day I was using. You said, "Are you referring to malaise?" And I was like, "Don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Don't insert another thing in there. Where it's like effect and effect, A and E. Like you've ruined. I don't use that word anymore.
The good sick call word.
Yeah,
yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think. Everything goes back and forth, and I hope as a country and a culture, we're kind of at the end of like let's hold everybody super accountable for everything they think or say, and we'll drift back a little bit, and because obviously people make mistakes, and you just gotta like if somebody has learned from it and like shows some regret, like okay, let's do it. And then, but the same thing. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, man, like sorry.
Yeah, but another thing that you guys don't tolerate is injury and recovery. Like you guys are taught, like from a career perspective, like you hide your injuries, like you don't want them on your.
Oh well, so we tolerate it, and the thing is, an ODA only has 12 people on it,
right?
So if you sprain your ankle or hurt your knee, and you're missing that unit's next deployment, you're a significant part of the manpower, and I don't think I've ever been on a team where everybody wasn't like down to their very core invested in that team's win.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they feel like if I take a knee, there's nobody to carry that weight except for the rest of the team, and it's going to there's a very real chance it could affect the mission. And the second thing is, there are certain injuries where you will get, med boarded out of the military, and not every Green Beret is a doctor, so they don't know what injury they have, how bad it is.
Right.
So until it literally keeps them from getting out of bed in the morning, most guys will ride that thing in and hide hide it because they just want to stay in the regiment as long as possible.
Well, I'm sure you know guys that have like ankle or soft tissue injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And soft tissue is non-vascular. They take forever to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh man, I've had a bum knee for the past 8 years. It's like, well, maybe take a little bit of time and let those tendons and ligaments heal.
So
just try it. So you'll be amazed.
Yeah, we have a really good program now called Thor, and it nests in physical therapy, our docs in the battalions with our trainers, and we spot stuff like this now. And we figured out that it's cheaper to fix a broken Green Beret than to go out and recruit and train a new one. So we're really kind of shifted the paradigm on that. Where plus we by centralizing our workouts, and then we have these coaches. They're keeping really close track of your performance. You can't really hide an injury like the old days. Like you can't duct tape your ankle and stick it in a jungle boot and hide that, because you have a coach. It's like, hey, your front squat is like not right. What's going on? And I'd be interested to see how it kind of matures as we go down the road, because we're catching these injuries earlier, making a guy get it fixed, and then reintegrating him into training with the team. But with somebody there, it's like, no,
Right.
You're not going to go do a 400-pound deadlift. You're an idiot. And stop.
Yeah, it's like you don't ever want to lose your starting spot. It's like in football, you don't lose your starting spot to an injury.
Super competitive.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the super alpha male he's already probably frustrated because he may not be the best at this particular event. Now he's got this injury, and that's the guys taking whatever drug that's going to temporarily fix his issue, and he's going to go make it worse.
I think we've improved as a culture. Starting out in the Army, there was nothing. We had a coach, a strength and conditioning coach in the gym, and that was it. Fast forward, 21 years later almost, 21 years, we've got dry needling and physical therapy and the strength coach and the chiropractor. They're all right there every day. There's 2 to 3 of them on staff right outside the gym. You sign up. If you got an injury, you're doing your PT there. You're getting fixed.
You know what dry needling is?
Yeah. Do I?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think dry needling is the most hilarious thing on the planet.
It is pretty funny.
It's a great test. If somebody's actually injured, they'll let you do that to them twice.
Yeah. A serious injury. But also,
if they don't show back up again, they were faking. It's not really hurt.
The guys are going in and they're getting fixed. It's no longer, I got to hide it. It's, hey, tell me how bad it is.
Yep.
But what I think is a lot of times, throughout my career, you're constantly, for a long time I was waiting. I'm like, it'll get better. And I'm not evaluating really how bad it is, even as a poorly trained medical professional.
And so something we did, and is we put the physical therapy. It's right in the middle of our workout floor. Mm-hmm. So if your team's in there working out, you're with them still, which is different culturally, because back in the day you would go to sick call, and even when I had terrible injuries, I never went to sick call, because that's where all the assholes are at that are trying to get out of the formation run, and they've got these mystery injuries, and you don't want to be associated with them.
They got the malaise.
And that's where all the dirtbags in you are always at sick call. Which so when we're actually hurt though, you're like, where do you go? Because if you miss something, you're at sick call. Even if you've had the most sterling record on the planet, it's always like,
Yep.
But now by nesting that thing, and it is a part of the physical fitness. It's nested in there. So if you're getting treatment, you're still with your team. And I was like, that is like the best thing ever we could have ever done.
I figured that's probably what happened to that one VBIED driver that didn't show up. He had to go to sick call, or had a dental appointment.
Where is that guy?
Probably had a dental appointment.
He had a dental appointment.
Yeah.
And he's like, I had a dental appointment. And if you miss a dental appointment, they call the
I can't blow myself up today, Sarge.
The Taliban
I'm a Cat
CSM,
4
and they
dental.
tell them they missed it. So that's going to be a big deal.
I'm red on MedPros.
Yeah, well, I wonder where that guy's at.
He just walked off.
Yeah, just walked. The truck broke down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you'll get the next one. I'm like, well, shit.
Probably governor now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, Earl, first off, thank you so much for connecting with me and offering to do this and tell your story. Because honestly, I was a little uncomfortable asking you to tell your story.
It's been, I always forget, because I tell everybody at work, because it was an awesome story to me. But there is that perception of like, was it a bad day? And
Right. Well, it was really Jamie Alden that kind of pushed me over the edge on this.
Yeah.
Like,
But you told it in such a relatable way. There was never a moment of like, well, there I was. It was none of that. It was extremely relatable. And like, you somehow wove a tremendous amount of humor into the story.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I mean, I'm not making light of it, but it's like, I mean, I could see you like kind of chuckling around, laughing and blowing stuff up and getting shot at.
Yeah.
And then getting pissed because you have sand in your back. That was
the worst.
That was the low point for him. The sand got down his shirt. Damn it! What's wrong? You got ammo? No, I'm fine. I got sand in my butt crack.
So something we do to wrap up each episode of this is we donate. Black Rifle donates $1,000 to the charity of our guest choice. So you have one you'd like us to donate on behalf of?
I didn't know. I hadn't prepped anything.
I should have prepped you.
You should have prepped me.
No. It's better that you didn't. We want to see him think on his feet. We're exercising his brain.
We've seen what he can do.
My old, I guess standby would be the charitable trust. That's
a good one.
Those guys are in there, getting after it.
SF Charitable Trust.
Man, they have that really, they've taken care of me, especially when I was recovering. They put some really good trips together, and they have access to a lot of things that you wouldn't think that you need, but they definitely bat above their weight.
Yeah. Small, undersung charity. Yeah. I like them a lot.
And they're down there in the trenches finding the guy that needs it. And that's what they came through and put me and my wife on some trips, probably at some key points that helped me recover and kind of probably saved our marriage. Because I don't know if you've ever had to be married to a Green Beret that was severely injured, but they're like really terrible people to share a household with.
I was not, but I have been a Green Beret in 3 different marriages and realized that the common denominator was me. So I get it. Yeah.
The first step is admitting. Yeah.
Admitting you have a problem.
Yep. All right, Earl. Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, Medal of Honor recipient.
Yep.
Thanks for coming, man.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Kev, Baker, Free Range America.
That was great.
Yeah.
That concludes today's training. Any questions?